Hey, yo, welcome once again to The Upgrade. This is the one and only Gary Muttley, and I am joined with my friend and cohort in crime,
Len Carmichael, Landmine Studios. What's going on, y'all?
How you doing, Len? Is it hot enough?
You know what? Today is one of those days where I actually have not even left my house. I woke up, I put on my sweatpants, and I walked into my basement. My basement is exactly 67 degrees. It's cold enough that I actually put on like a little space heater because it gets a little chilly down here. But I've heard that it's the devil's balls outside.
Yeah, I checked earlier. It was like 93, feels like 99. I was like, yeah, fuck that. I'm not leaving the house.
It feels like I'm not going outside.
Yeah,
I'm too fat
feels like
to
I'm
be
not
outside.
going anywhere.
You know, like I've been kind of watching what I eat, and I've been trying to do some exercise around the house. I actually did break out the weights that I talked about previously.
Nice.
And I started lifting those, and I've cut a couple pounds, and I thought about going out for a walk. And when I heard it was so hot outside, I said the walk could wait. It's not that important.
You'll be a puddle by the time you hit the end of the driveway.
Yeah, I'm not trying to just wither away and die in the middle of my own street. Plus, the trash man came through last week, and they must have been on some extra special shit because there is garbage truck juice everywhere, all down the street. But especially
you were telling me about that.
A big pile of it in front of my house, and I'm like, and of course, all summer it's been just raining and raining and raining. It ain't rained in a week now, so it just smells like the garbage truck's asshole sitting right in front of my house.
Just smells like death.
Yeah, not a fan.
Smells like all the bodies that are in that garbage truck.
You know what? There are a couple bodies I'd like to put in that garbage truck, but we won't talk about them publicly.
Yeah, we'll save that. We'll save that for off the air.
Yeah. I mean, it's nobody I directly know, but it's everybody. It's people that we all know.
I got a nice little guest list myself, so we'll hold on to that for another time.
So I don't want to get too far into it, but did you see the thing about the judge's kid and her husband that got shot? Did we talk about that?
We did talk about it a little bit, and then you saw that they found the guy
suicided.
Yeah. Like still in the FedEx uniform.
Yeah, am I to believe, or do they suspect me to believe that this is anything other than what it actually is?
Well, they said that the guy was an attorney, and that he had previously been involved in a case in her courtroom.
Right.
So there you go. That's the connection. Everything's fine. Nothing's wrong.
Nice,
everything's
pretty
good.
bow. Wrap it all up and just move on. Nothing to see here.
Epstein didn't kill himself. Yeah. Everything is fine.
Just sprinkle a little crack on him. It'd be fine.
No, that's totally cool. No problem at all. It's easy. It's simple. It's all solved. Everything is good. Nothing more to see here. Move along.
Totally plausible.
Yeah. Exactly.
No foul play. Nothing fishy or funky or garbage truck juice about it.
Nothing fishy about that. Nothing fishy about the president suddenly wearing a fucking mask.
Yeah, right.
Everything's good. Everything is just fine. We're all fine here.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
No, we're good. We're fine. We're all fine here.
Oh God, I don't want to get too far into this. It's just I just needed to check and see if you had heard any of that stuff.
Typical fishiness.
Just another day in America.
As usual, another day in America. I'm gonna go drink some Schlitz and listen to some Five Finger Death Punch.
Just make sure you get your car bomb shot of bleach in with your Schlitz.
Yes.
That way, you get the beer and the cleaning.
I'm gonna shine some light inside my body also while I'm at it.
How does one do that? Are you gonna you jam it straight up where the sun don't shine?
I don't know. You're gonna have to. The president said it's good, so it's our duty to experiment and figure it out. On that note, we have a special guest that really probably doesn't give a shit about most of this stuff.
Well, hello, guest.
His name is Will Romeo, good friend of mine. He's in a band called Crippled Earn and another band called Neckscars, and he also does some solo stuff on his own as well. Hi, Will.
Hey, what's up, guys? How are you?
Just great. Besides melting.
Yeah, dude. I was in Philadelphia yesterday. Crippled Earn was recording. I got in my car to leave at 5 o'clock, and it was 103 degrees.
Oh.
That's not hot at all. Like, come on. No. I wish it was hotter. I wish it was hotter.
I enjoy the calories burned, but aside from
that. It's not so nice when you're just a puddle.
Yeah.
When there's nothing left of you.
Yeah. We went over to that Wawa down in West Philadelphia to pick up like some snacks, and it was just like, damn, I should have ordered GoPuff. Like, it just was it was brutal outside.
Okay, so you're going to have to be a little more clear about which Wawa in West Philadelphia, because there are Wawas everywhere in Philadelphia.
It doesn't matter because they're all good.
No. Wawa is terrible.
Yeah, wow, you're a Wawa hater, Len?
I'm a Sheetz guy, to be honest.
I'm a Sheetz guy, 100%.
Okay, I like both. I'll say I like both.
The Sheetz has a better burrito.
Sheetz is better, but you don't really find Sheetz as much around here. So.
Well, I mean, you have to go out like about an hour or so west of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Or go south. Anywhere in that direction, and you can find a Sheetz. Like for me, my closest Sheetz closed down. They're moving into a new location. They haven't opened a new one, so they just shut down the old one. But it was between me and Reading, Pennsylvania. I would always get it while I was on my way to that Club Reverb out there in Reading. So like it was literally right on my path. I didn't have to do anything. So I was stopped there on my way to the show and as well on the way home from the show, because I'm that kind of guy who needs, I need to shit my pants when I get to the show and when I get home. So, it's like that was my deal, but it's closed right now, so I'm not able to partake. And shows are shut down, so I'm not going out there anyway.
I think that was the last time when I was out at Reverb was the last time I had Sheetz.
So part of the problem with me with Wawa is that I actually didn't grow up with Wawa at all. So my town's Wawa shut down in '79. I was 3. Oh. It was right next to the McDonald's, so I would see it, but then like you can even see the building. It still looks like the fucking Wawa from way back in the day, but they moved out for whatever reason. They decided that the township was not a place for them to be, and they never came back until 2 or 3 summers ago, and they just opened one about a mile from my studio. So wow. I do go there, especially at night when I'm leaving, and I don't feel like going to 7-Eleven. So growing up, 7-Eleven was my thing. There were like 4 or 5 7-Elevens in Ewing, so like that's where I went. But now I go to the Wawa, it's got gas and it's brightly lit. There's a billion food options inside, but I'm just not tied to any of it.
Yeah, but the food, 7-Eleven, no.
Yo, bro, those roller hot dogs?
No.
Yes, absolutely. No. It's permanent heartburn. It's perfect.
Oh, that's murder.
7-Eleven that you love, you stick with it. There are 7-Elevens that are like next level. Like there's one in Tarrytown, New York, in Westchester County in New York where I work, and they got like an insane craft beer selection and like fresh food.
Right.
Like not like the leftover pizza that you would do, like you go in there and like there's pizza and this is the only thing open at 2 a.m. They have fresh.
I don't do the pizza. I don't do the pizza. Like I only will eat the taco roll-ups or whatever they're called, like whatever those things are called. They're just on the roller alongside the hot dogs.
Yeah,
and
I know what
specifically
you're talking
about. The steak one is the one to get. The other 2 are kind of gross. I mean, they're all kind of gross, but the steak one is the best of. It's the least gross of the 3, and then the pound hot dogs are just disgusting and delicious at the same time. And I just. I haven't been in 7-Eleven. Honestly, I haven't been in my 7-Eleven but once in the last 4 months or 5 months. So, I'm not indulging the horribleness that was my diet at one point. But, you know, it in a pinch it will work.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I know I've done it because I've had those desperate moments, but now I don't know. At this point in my life, I might just pass. Those hot dogs.
I mean, if you eat it, you might pass.
That's true too.
I've been vegetarian for like 15 years, so pizza is always the option.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with you guys. The Sheetz and the Wawa is a higher level of 24-hour eats for sure.
So yeah, I've been just trying to eat better in general. So I haven't really been indulging myself in these absolutely horrible, delicious delicacies.
Wish I could say the same, right, Gary?
But
yeah,
we live in Morris Park. We live like 5-minute drive from each other. This is the best pizza in the world there.
I don't know. I live in New Jersey, and the pizza here is pretty damn fucking good, especially around Trenton.
I know. My bands we've always played the Mill Hill Basement, and we always enjoyed the pizzeria right on the corner.
Cavello's.
And no joke, really good.
Yeah, Cavello's is okay. So that means you know my friend Dave.
Davey Locan, yeah, I love Davey.
So I've known Dave for many, many, many years, and I'm gonna say 96. That's probably when I met Dave, because that was when about the time he started going to Mercer County University or community college, whichever one you want to call it.
Yeah, Dave is really great. Whenever we play there, it's always a good hang.
So I once played a show there. It was the year that Hellfest was canceled, and they held like a bunch of random shows in a whole bunch of different places, and there were legitimately 250 people packed in that basement. I mean, literally they were going down the hallway and up the stairs, and it was one of the wildest times of my entire life.
They've had some like notable shows there, and it's Trenton like, for some reason, like whenever like we play there, the people that we would always think from Philly that would come out and hang out never want to come to Trenton for some reason.
Yeah, no, nobody comes to Trenton.
But we played a couple shows that were like really good, and it's like a tiny little room. There's one show that I wish I went to. I think Iron Reagan played there.
Yep.
And I heard that show was like,
it was wild.
It was crazy, and I love that band. So I was like, but aside from that, we played there with Dave Small. What's that band? Down by Law. My other band.
Oh, you played with that show.
Down by Law there, and Dave Smalley. The promoter decided to give them a $2,000 guarantee to play. And there was like 40 paid at the door at $20 a pop, and he was not happy. But he was really cool, though. He was really cool. He was like, he played the show, but he was like not to, because anything that was agreed upon and contracted did not
happen. No.
And it was like, and I was like saying to people, I'm like, why did this promoter think that they could get $2,000 in Mill Hill Basement?
Basic mathematics.
Davey will give you some beers.
Clearly out the window.
Yeah.
Like, what basement show is clearing $2,000?
None at all.
And on top of that, he didn't even feed them too. The promoter, they had like agreed upon like food, and there was like no food.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't Dave.
It was not Dave. It was like a guy that's like was a part of that thing, and he got like he disappeared. It's a really bad person. You guys were talking about bad people before, and he's one person I would definitely put on that list.
On the list.
Yeah.
I wonder why he disappeared.
Everyone started in the Trenton like scene. Everybody started coming up about like the sexual assault that he was doing to like.
Oh, it's that dude.
Okay. I didn't want to like throw anybody on blast. I don't like
Yeah. No, I know who you're talking about. Yeah. I'm not gonna put his name out, but because I don't want to put him on blast like that, but I don't want to give him any press whatsoever, positive or negative.
I agree with you 100%. Yeah, so I don't know. It was like one of those things, but yeah, he was like the worst. Like he did that on the rag. Like he'd book like he was like a punisher and booked like a lot of like shows by punishing bands, and then like, oh, I gotta pay you. I thought we were friends. It's like, oops,
oh, you want money?
Oh, I thought you were playing because you were my friend.
Yeah. So it was
so which band was that? Was that Crippled Earn or was that Neckscars?
It was a band before Neckscars. I used to be in a punk band called Game Day Regulars. Okay. And then once we stopped doing, me and Tyler put together Crippled Earn, and then like me and some of the guys in Neckscars, we have like a pretty like a project, but like, you know, we practice like once or twice a month, and we record songs and stuff like that. And it's Neckscars. It's like a little on the, it's got a punk rock feel, but it's like a post-hardcore, a little quicksandish kind of.
I listened to it, and honestly, it reminded me of like Hot Water Music a little bit.
Well, that's like I guess you would say like I grew up listening to hardcore, but like in the punk rock and like that was all like together. Hot Water Music for me when I was younger was like a post-hardcore band. They were like they became like the next Bouncing Souls in some weird way, like with their anthemic punk rock, but like that was like, you know, them, Small Brown Bike and stuff like that. So definitely, and I definitely love, even like to this day, I love like Hot Water Music, but you know, it was like growing up, it was like Jawbreaker, Fugazi, Hot Water Music, and like the list goes on. And then like, you know,
So was Neckscars before Crippled Earn technically?
After.
It was after. Okay.
So Crippled Earn, we've been ripping at it for like 3 years now. It's definitely super fun. We were just in Philly at Creep recording.
Yeah, how did that go?
I've actually never been to Creep recording.
Oh, it's great. It's off of Girard in Philly, and you know, Eric upgraded like the studio. He's got a lot of he partnered up with some people too, so it's definitely got a lot more to it. He redid it all and stuff like that. And we've recorded with him because, you know, he did all the Kill Your Idols records. Like, okay, we love Kill Your Idols.
Yeah. Side note: I'm in a band with somebody that was in Kill Your Idols. Brian, do you know Brian Meehan?
Oh yeah.
I don't know him, but like I did see Kill Your Idols when he was in the band. Are you in that like thrash metal band or that doom metal?
No, it's a spin-off of our old band Man Alive. So it's like me, Chris Ross from Nora / Second Arrows, and then a couple other guys are in the band, and you know, we've been banging around for a while. Our singer moved to San Francisco, so we had to find a new singer, and we've kind of started a new band out of the ashes of the old one. But it's basically 4 out of the 5 of us are the exact same.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I definitely remember Nora, Carl, like back in the day, me and Tyler's old band, Your Day Strong, he was always really cool. He's like, we would play shows every now and then with Nora, and he'd always like, hey, you guys want to do a weekend? It was always, you know, it was always pretty fun. But we always liked Nora. They're always a great band. That's my wife's name too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, it fits then. It makes it easy. Hard to forget. I like hard to forget. Hard to forget things, because then I never screw them up. I still find a way to screw them up. But so I was listening to Neckscars, and I feel like there is no doubt in my mind. And the reason why I'm going to say this is because I'm having one built, and Gary's seen it. But you must be playing an 800.
You have no idea. I got an 83 modded one. It's the 3rd one I've owned. I've gotten rid of them. And this one, when I used to live up in Dutchess County, New York, I got there was one in a road case for $900, and I was like, I didn't want to. They were always $500 when we were kids. I'm 39. Right. You always find them in like Daddy's Junkie Music or Sam Ash for $500. Yep. So I got like 83 800. It's a 50 watt. It's modded. I just got it I got like caps and tubes put in it, and then like, yeah, that's always been. I use it for both bands. I actually want more of them.
So I have a guy in Baltimore. His name is Mike. He runs a company called Black Cat Amps, and he actually hand built me an 800 clone. I mean, it's literally top of the line parts, and it's finally finished. I'm going to be going down to pick it up, I think, this weekend. So I'm like super looking forward to it. I sent Gary some pictures of his
I was just going to ask you, because I'm probably going to go down there and visit you in the next couple of weeks, and I'm hoping that you have it.
Oh, I'm going to have it.
Because I want to crank that fucker.
Yeah.
I want to hear what that thing sounds like.
So it's a 50 watt. but like literally it's a faithful reproduction of the original with all current high-end parts. So like it's as solid as it could possibly be. But when I was listening to the Neckscars recording, I was like, there is no way this is not an 800, because it has that, like, it rips, but it's articulate. You can like actually hear the notes that you're playing, and I find that in a lot of the newer, as you get closer to current amps, all the notes start to mud together in most amps, and the 800 does not allow that to happen. So like I could hear it.
That was like the amp everybody. My first tube amp when I was like, I'm gonna be 40. I got it at 19. Was the JCM 2000, and it was cool. It was a tube amp, and it was an upgrade from the Val State.
Right.
Say solid set, and then my 2000 died on tour with my first band, and I bought a 800 for $500 as a backup amp. And then like my friend's like, why aren't you playing it?
Right. And you're just like, what do you mean? Why aren't I playing it?
They're like, you have like the amp, dude. Why are you trying to get this? Why are you missing the 2000? Oh my God, just keep it in the van. And like, he's like, yo, crank it up. So I cranked it up, and I was like, oh, this is what everybody's talking about.
Oh, I have the real deal. Why did I even bother?
Oh, this is what I need.
And it's made better.
I have a 900. It's like a 50 watt 900 from 91, and it's okay. Like it has its
channel.
Yes, it's the 2-channel.
It's not. I had an SLXR one.
The SLX and the SLXR ones are really good.
I had one and I didn't need it, and I got rid of it, and I kind of regret it because I let it go for like $400.
That's a great price too. I got mine for $200, but it was not working, so I spent another $200 to get it back to like working area. I got a couple amp techs that I work with, and they massage my shit to the point where it works great afterwards. So I do like my 900, but I the whole time I had it, I was like, I wish I just had an 800. I still need one. So I have, I think, 24 heads at this point, like just sitting around, because I run a studio.
Yeah, I know.
We haven't really talked about that, but
yeah,
no matter what I end up buying, I'm always like, I should have just bought an 800, because like why am I dicking around with this? And
I use it on every recording, but then like Crippled did a couple songs at Backwood in Rockaway, New Jersey, and
Backroom Studios.
Yeah.
Kevin
with Mikhail Moranis.
Okay, yeah, I know. Mikhail.
And it was really cool to try out some other amps. Like sometimes you don't get those options, but they had a Soldano there. They had a Friedman JJ, which if I had $4,000 to spend on an amp, that was what
I was going to ask you, is if you played the Friedman that's there.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the wish list.
So earlier today I was on Facebook, and Billy from Biohazard had posted like a video, and it made me realize that the setup I have in my studio is almost like 50% his studio and 50% back room. Like the way I have everything set up in the room and how you look out, and like all my preamps are on the left, all my amps are on a bunch of shelves on the right, and I'm like, all right. And I stole like all these ideas from just going to visit other places. So there's my shout out to them.
Do you have the amp switcher?
I don't have the amp switcher. I'm looking at buying a KHE audio amp switcher. They have them out there right now, and it allows you to do. They have a bunch of different versions, but the one that I'm looking at allows you to hook up 8 amps at once to 4 different cabs, and then just switch between them to see which is the one you want to use for the thing. I mean, honestly, 99% of the time I'm using either one of my 250 150s, so I might as well just load them up, and I could probably sell every other amp I own at this point other than my Ampeg V4.
I used to have Gary, you remember Richie's studio on East Chester?
Oh, yeah.
I got, when he was like really going out of business, like he had a storage room filled with the amp. I got like a 5150, a real one, like an original one, I mean, for $200.
Whew.
And
that's
I have a need for it, like an idiot. Now I'm like, should I get a 65.5?
He was just unloading everything. That's why.
He would have sold his teeth if he could.
Yeah, exactly. The dude was such a fucking thief.
Total crook.
Total crook.
He came to our show at Jimmy Ryan's, the last one we did.
Really?
Yeah, with Enziguri. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, Len, this dude had a studio, and then like just he was renting out all these monthly rooms, and then one weekend he just left.
He was like, I'm done with this shit.
He just bounced. He had been he told everybody he was moving. He took a bunch of payments for like prepayments for the new studio.
Right.
And then he just disappeared.
With the money and everything.
And then suddenly months later he showed up with the new studio. But like the dude just like, I got a call from one of the other bands because I had a room there. Mm-hmm. Billy Club had a room there, and I get a call from like the Four in the Chamber guys, like, yo, Richie left. Like everything is just sitting here. And we all had to scramble over there on a Sunday to go get our shit because like the place was literally just abandoned.
That's no good. No good at all.
Yeah. We were like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that was crazy. And then he opened up that other. Were you in the second spot or the first spot?
I only went. I was in the first spot on Eastchester, but I went once to the second spot, and I saw him for like a split second, and I wanted to smack the shit out of him. Just like, you left all my shit. Like, we had all of our gear there.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, like, there are a few things in the world that will make me want to just slap the shit out of you. But if it comes down to you putting my gear into peril, that falls into that territory.
Exactly.
I'm 100% with you on that.
Yeah, you just leave all of our shit there. Because there were a whole bunch of rooms.
Yeah.
But he was renting all the rooms in the spot. And, you know, how shady does that look? Oh, I'm taking prepayments. And then all of a sudden, one day, somebody walks in and, like, his office is just all cleaned out. All the furniture gone and everything. It's like, this don't look right.
Yeah, I was crazy. I think like we never ever, any of the bands I ever did, we were always lucky to practice at my parents' house in their studio apartment. So until like a little while ago, I finally got like a rehearsal space with the Pine Box, and then that stopped. That place closed down. So
that was up in Mount Vernon, right?
Yeah, it was cool, but like at the same time, it's so expensive to get a rehearsal space here now in New York City. It's like you're $1,000.
There's hardly anything left. I mean, up here, Len, in the Bronx and like Lower Westchester, there used to be a whole bunch of hourly studios and a whole bunch of monthly rooms.
Right now, nothing.
It's all gone. Just about everything is gone. Like that place that we were talking about where I used to rent the room, that's like they rent it out for parties now. It's just like a party space. And all the monthly studios, all gone. All the hourly studios, all gone. The other place that Will is talking about was in Mount Vernon. Billy Club and Irate used to share a room up there for a long time. Okay. And I always said, like, it's kind of weird that this building is still there, and like sooner or later they're going to tear it down. And sure enough, eventually they kicked everybody out and they tore that building to the ground.
Yeah.
The whole thing it's just rocks now.
So I'm going to tell you that you're at least lucky to have had that at all. The Trenton scene has been notorious for not having any practice spaces whatsoever. So like the only two places you can practice right now that I know of, three places are you can rent out Champs, that venue you can rent out their back room where they have shows for some amount of money by the hour.
Or two in Jersey. Meat Locker, you can
do that, yeah. And then
the Meat Locker.
I hate that place. I mean, I'll gladly play there, but it's definitely not. It's not my thing.
Weird place.
And then my studio, and then there's another practice studio in this area called Duck Island, which is basically on the dump. site. Like literally, it's 1 block from the Trenton dump. So no, it smells really fucking bad.
Oh man.
So like, I'm just like, nah, I'm definitely not practicing here. And like, the whole area just is like really fucking weird down there. So I just try to avoid that. So really, it's either my studio or Champs, and I can't think of any other practice location at all. And only a few bands come practice at my spot just because I'm not like promoting it.
Yeah, dude, we're in the same as Crippled Earn. We practice. Richie from Sub-Zero has Barking Dog Studios up in Brewster, New York, and it's like 45 minutes from the Bronx. Mm-hmm. And we practice there. He has a fantastic amp selection. It's all real deal gear, and the rates are standard. And he's like awesome. So he's always just text him, and he's like, "Yeah, come in." And he goes pretty late too. So we've been like fortunate enough to do that because we all live all over. Like I live in the Bronx, and some of my guys live in Westchester and Connecticut, and Tyler lives in Westchester, and then our bass player lives in Brooklyn. So it's a good like central ground for us to get up and
So tell me a little bit more about Crippled Earn. How did it come to happen?
Well, me and Tyler, we were in a band together, and we were just hanging out a bunch. And I wasn't Game Day Regulars, the band I was in. We weren't doing anything anymore. So him and my brother, who was in Crippled, he was in the other band too. We just got together and started writing some songs, and then like it was like fun, we had it, like I had him play. Tyler was in My Bitter End and Dr. Acula, and it'd been like a decade or so since around that time, maybe like less than 10 years that he'd been doing anything. So we were like, oh, let's do this. And he was always like joining bands. We wanted to do something that we actually wanted to do, we're always like, let's start like a fast punk band, and like, so it was like kind of like that. So we just started getting together and jamming and stuff like that. And then, I knew Eric because my old band toured with his band. He's in a like a punk band called Goddamn, and he's also in Bad Luck 13. And so he was like, and he did some of my favorite. He did Plow United records and like the Kill Your Idol. I was like, well, let's go record with him in Philly. It'd be awesome. So then we started doing. That's how it kind of came about. And then we just started hitting the ground running, playing shows and stuff like that. And we were doing some touring in the beginning, like booking some runs and stuff. Then our van died, so we never bought another van. Right. I get the point. We're like old. If we need to use a van for like a week, we'll just rent one.
So I'm like, My Bitter End is a band that my old band back in the day spent a lot of time with, but it was pre-Tyler. Jesse
works at Jesse. When I moved to Dutchess County, Jesse was still living in Dutchess County, and then he moved to Jersey City, and then like he works with my drummer because I was playing in a band in Jersey. This singer-songwriter Sammy K. The drummer of his band works at Pet Shop Bar. And Jesse works there, so it's like. And then whenever I'm in Jersey City, I always run into him, whether it's at White Eagle Hall or a bar or something. So we knew them from back in the day too. Like, and he was in another really good band after that called Tiger Flowers.
Yep, Tiger Flowers was a cool band.
Yep, know that band.
So like, it's just funny that. So I spent some time actually, like, kind of researching because I wanted to be able to make sure I had some questions for you, and like I looked at our friends lists, and you just fall under my limit of this guy must be suspect. Because for me, if I have 100 friends or more in common with somebody, but I don't know who they are, I'm like, oh, this guy must be suspect. But we're at like 82, so you're still under the limit. You're good.
All right. Yeah.
No, but like, I mean, clearly, based on a lot of the people that that I happen to know as well, it's just interesting that today is the first time our paths are really actually crossing.
Yeah, I met the Onsite guys, and you recorded them, and you their last record. It's amazing. And I was like, wow, this sounds so good. But I never met you. I only knew the stuff you do with the Hate 56.
Yeah.
I was like, but fan of your production work and stuff is great, and your bands and stuff.
Appreciate it. I just do it to have fun, man. Like, I have a regular 9-to-5 job.
What's that?
My ass. I'm the director of compliance for a large company, and I do like work that's basically paper pushing in one way or the other. So I'm chasing people to get things done and making sure our ass is covered should we get sued for some reason. Like literally, that's my whole job. But so I do the studio stuff just because I love it. Cool. I'm not like in it to be making a ton of money or anything like that. I mean, obviously, I'm never going to turn away money. If somebody wants to give me money, I'm taking it. And, that's not the thing, but it's not the focus of doing the studio. The focus is just like, it's a learning project for me. Every time I do a record, I learn something new. So, if I come out of a project and I haven't learned something new, either the band hasn't presented me with anything that would push my envelope, or I haven't pushed myself enough. So I just consistently try new techniques or try to learn something new in editing, etc., so that I'm consistently pushing forward.
Well, Len, like we've always said, if you're looking to make a lot of money, the music business is not the way to do it. And
if it is, it's definitely not in hardcore. Go make beats.
No, definitely not.
That's the funniest thing. I don't know. There was like that period in music where all these bands, like in the early 2000s, were like these like heavy bands were getting like
thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yep. And I was like seeing them, I'm like, oh man. And it's like now they're playing like 150 cap room.
Now they're playing the Mill Hill.
That's
not that there's anything wrong with playing the Mill Hill, but it's a different situation than what some of these bands thought they were going to be set up with for the rest of forever.
Well, that's also because they had to start paying back their advance. That's why.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, oh, great, they're going to sign a big deal, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, oh, you have to pay that money back, right? Oh, and that's when the problems start.
That's because they didn't read the fucking contract.
Exactly. Exactly.
So some of my friends are in a band that signed to Nuclear Blast. I'm not going to put the actual band on here about it, but if they decide to come on the show and talk to us about it, we'll talk about it then. But they actually worked their contract so that any advance money was not recoupable.
Wow.
So, they got X amount for
that's impressive.
Recording, and it was just theirs. They did not have to pay any of that back at all. And I was impressed that they pushed that far.
Yeah, to get a label of that size to sign something like that.
Yep.
Forget it. I mean, I always heard stories about bands getting screwed on deals like that from Century Media and Roadrunner and like
Victory.
Victory, yeah.
Well, Tony's got the Don't Sleeps on it, the Mission 2 Entertainment now.
Oh yeah, well that's because he cashed out with Victory finally, which was impressive. The fact that he got a couple of mil for Victory was like, wow.
It's only about their back catalog. It's not about anything current.
Yeah. Tyler was in Dr. Act.
It's all.
He just told me like insane stories of being around that dude. I actually got flown out by Victory in 2006 I was up for a position to be part of the head of their like street team. You remember that van?
Yeah.
That would go out and handle all the street teamers. So it's like I went on an interview. They flew me out overnight and I didn't get the job. And then I started working for a Victory band selling merch and touring with them for like a year and a half. And that was cool, but it was always.
Which band do you want to say?
It was this band. I'm friends with these guys to this day. Action.
Okay. Yeah.
They were like, I guess Victory was trying to do something that was like, they were in a band called The Reunion Show.
Yep.
And yeah, I remember on the tour we did with the Sounds, we went to Victory, we showered there. And then after we showered there, they got another advance. And then after that, it was like some money that was owed to them or something, I forget. And then the accountant was fired like a day later. It was like that.
Yeah. Good friend of mine was in The Reunion Show, Brian.
Oh, Brian Diaz?
Yep.
Yeah, I know Brian from back in the day. He's really good friends with a couple of people. And he's a big tech or tour manager.
Yep. Yeah, he just did. He just
And
did.
That's why I remember in his Goldfish too.
Yeah. Well, I used to work with him at Tower Records, and then I've been, I got back in touch with him a couple of years ago, and we stay in touch. And he just did a thing with the band Bush. They did some big virtual show, like some live stream thing, and he was working with them for a week for rehearsals and stuff. And then, he's doing that, and he's doing a lot of photography.
Oh, cool! Yeah. I remember. Yeah, growing up, they were like I used to go see them all the time. We played my old bands. We played with them too. I think once at remember those teen centers in Connecticut?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
played a few of those.
Yeah, and then
always had to be careful to hide the beer.
Hide the beer, not swear. Usually Christian venue.
Yeah. Yep.
Sometimes.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story about one of those. We played actually, I think, with Kill Your Idols one time at one of those teen centers, and in the middle of Kill Your Idols set, suddenly the place clears out, in the middle of their set, and we're like, "What the hell just happened?" And then we realize it turned 11 o'clock, so everybody's parents came to pick them up at 11,
and they had to go.
Yeah,
it was time.
You guys got those. Some of those ones in the nice neighborhoods. They always paid really well. They were always like, "Oh yeah, they'll pay you what you're asking for." I remember.
I've definitely played a few of those where you think it's a teen center. I don't know if they're gonna go for it. They're like, "Yeah, no problem."
Yeah, town money. Oh, and all you want in the concession too. They always have a concession stand.
Yeah, which is like candy and shit, because no alcohol, no nothing. That was always how are they gonna make money with no bar? But it always worked out. Fine by me.
With one of my old bands, we actually played one of those out in California in Sacramento, and it was one of the weirdest experiences of my whole life, playing basically at a Christian center, but it was within a church, and the power went out in the Christian center, so they moved the show into the church. So we're on the altar playing. And I mean, we're clearly singing loosely satanic songs. And after our set, they're being nice, but they wouldn't buy any merch. No surprise. And then I'm in the back and we're getting paid. And one of the kids comes up and he shakes my hand, and there's $100 in it. And he's like, "That's a Pentecostal handshake. We're really hoping that you guys turn yourselves around, and we're wishing you well on the rest of your trip." And I looked in my hand and I was like, "Well, thank you. And I appreciate the thought." Bye. And then as we pull out, all the beer that was drank is flowing out from underneath the van, because Jay and Matt were just knocking them back. And I mean, this was a dry location, and a whole 30-pack falls out of the fucking van empty. And we just left, and we obviously never went back to that location.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I totally get it. I know that exact story.
Oh, listen, you did better than me, because I couldn't do something like that, because I would step in there and immediately catch fire.
I'm surprised I didn't.
I'm not welcome in those type of places.
Yeah, there was a venue. You remember that Christian venue? I forgot the name of it, in Nashua, New Hampshire. But we played there with my old band with Tyler. We played there with Winter. You remember Winter Solstice?
Yeah, I do. I know that
band. And they were they would pray before they got on stage and all that stuff. And but I remember the club owner was because the club owner was telling us, he's like, "Yeah, man, if you're drinking, we're going to throw you out. I had to throw out and cancel River City High the other day." He's like, "The guy with the cowboy hat, he was walking around with a Burger King cup drinking bourbon." And I was just like,
you were like, "Yeah, I don't blame him." Whatever.
There's no one's coming to this show tonight.
See, you got that, but then Len, remember Club Culture?
Yes.
In Chester?
Yes.
100%. I met that place.
I remember that place, and it was a teen center, but we're chilling, talking to the owner, who was a lawyer, and he's drinking out of a plastic cup from the gas station across the street, and you can smell the booze.
You can just it's just dripping out of him.
It's like some of these places are like no tolerance for the alcohol, but there it is. We're just chilling, talking to him, and you could just smell the booze coming out of that cup.
Yeah. One of the wildest shows that I played at that place was Full Blown Chaos, It Dies Today, and Bury Your Dead. And
nice.
it was like just insanity for that type of lineup to be in such a, I mean, like it's the size of my basement basically.
Yeah. That was a weird place. We played there a couple of times.
Well, because Rich would bring you up, right?
Yeah, because Rich would bring us up, and we played there with. I think we played with Irate, or maybe Eye to Eye played with Irate when I was playing in Eye to Eye, and then like we played possible. Like the Red Chord was also on the show.
So then we played that show with you because we played that show. It was you guys, somebody else, Red Chord, and Breath of Silence opened.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Because I mean, obviously Rich was booking the show, so he's going to put us on every fucking show.
Of course.
Yeah, we played there. The last show we played there was with Beloved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that light show Beloved or non-light show Beloved?
It was like Beloved before their record came out on Solid State or Tooth and Nail.
Okay, so before the light show.
Yeah, but any other show we played there, because we always played up in the Hudson Valley. There was always like these local shows there, and they were always cool. Like they were always cool. It used to be like a really good scene, that Newburgh and Middletown scene.
Oh yeah.
And it was always a blast coming up from the Bronx to play up there. But I don't.
Well, that's how we knew the My Bitter End guys, because Billy Club used to go up there and play, and Sean from My Bitter End was in God damn it, what band was he in? Beneath the Remains? I forget now. I'm spacing out. I think it was Beneath the Remains. Or no, he used to play with Eye to Eye also.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the drummer played for Through the Eyes of the Dead for a while too.
Yeah, Mike Rainey.
Mike, yeah.
Yeah, Mike, yeah. Yeah, we played with My Bitter End, me and Tyler's old band, with Jesse once at the Pyramid Club in New York City in Avenue A. And then I remember when the first tour, I went out to Empress Ballroom to see Tyler with them on a tour with Folly.
Oh wow!
And they stayed at SUNY Purchase with some of our friends, and then I bought them pizza. Bought the pizza and I hung out with them all night, and I was like, yeah, let's hang. And they were awesome. But I really wanted to catch the My Bitter End reunion. Like they did one in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I saw that. I wasn't able to get out there.
Yeah, I couldn't get to it either.
We're sold out too, that Brooklyn show. I don't know about the one. I think Upstate Black and Blue did the one upstate in Albany at Paulie's Hotel, I think.
Yeah, I forget the venue on that one. I know the one they did in Brooklyn. That place was pretty small.
Yeah, we played.
I've been there before.
Played the first show there. Crippled Earn played the first show there with that they did when they changed the name from Coco 66 to 66 Congress.
Right.
And we played there with End of Hope. We're friends with them. It's Davey from Prout.
Yeah.
About that. And so sorry about that. I'll close it up. Yes. So I'm just locking up my job. It was we played there with them, and it was cool. They bought the sound system from Brooklyn Bazaar.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. That
so Bazaar is closed now completely, right?
It's completely done.
That was a cool spot.
That was a cool place.
My only gripe with that place was no elevator to get the gear upstairs.
Yes.
That was literally my only gripe. Everything else about the place was cool.
Well, they had a back stairway, but you couldn't use it. Like, right. I would, that was the only other issue. That just only that one little stairway to get upstairs.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was cool. I mean, I knew that place wasn't going to last because nothing lasts in New York City anymore.
100%.
So
yeah.
So I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Crippled Earn is spelled EARN. Is that is there a backstory as to why you chose to spell earn that way instead of earn like URN? Are you like talking about money?
Yeah, Tyler's and Phil in the band are definitely like of the union working class, and there's a lot of like politics and all this other stuff that goes into like the union life, and like just working really hard. And it's also like working really hard, like doing manual labor, and like really, breaking your back, and like, sometimes not receiving what you should get.
Okay.
And that's like the basis behind it. And I didn't come up with the name, but I thought it was pretty badass.
Yeah, I mean, I like the name. It's definitely not a slight. I was just wondering, the origin of it. Definitely interesting. And I don't have the same experience, but I totally get it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the Crippled Earn, the basis behind that band is just it's a lot of songs are about the misery.
I mean, I got misery, but it's not about that.
Different type of misery.
Different kind of misery.
Yeah, and it's like, and we're not miserable bastards to be around though. So, but yeah,
I can't say so much about myself.
Yeah. I enjoy the misery, man. I'm all about it. But yeah, so that's what that's how that came along. And so even like the first when we put out our 7-inch, the first 7-inch we did, it was like we even had like, because we knew like Tyler was like, we should make safety shirts. So we got those like bright yellow and like the safety union worker, like be on like a bridge with the Crippled Earn safety shirt. We have like safety shirts made.
That's funny.
I have a funny story. Last summer, Descent, when we were still like going strong, we did a summer line, and all the shirts were like wildly different colors, but we did a safety shirt, and it was basically bright yellow, like that bright greeny yellow with purple writing on it, and literally anybody that has one, you can see them coming from a fucking mile away. Yeah. Like you're literally a day glow right now.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Like safety shirt. There were points like when before he got like before he joined this new carpenters union, like when like shows were happening, he'd like come like from the train to the show in Brooklyn in like a smelly orange shirt. I'm like, nice safety, man. Safety and boots on. He's like, yeah, I have time to change.
That's funny. So you guys just recorded. What are you going to do with that? How many songs did you do?
We recorded a cover and 2 songs, and we're going back to do a couple more songs. So we're going to put out like a 4-song. We're going to do another 7-inch. But like we just had like a lineup change, so we wanted to get back in the studio since we haven't done anything in a minute. So Phil, our bass player, plays drums now, and someone that used to jam with us plays bass, and so we went and recorded, and we're gonna probably put out a 7-inch with these songs and stuff, and then we're gonna the fall we're gonna go and do our first full length. So
nice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So tell me about. I want to know a little bit about your recording process. How do you guys think about your song structure, but more so when you get into the studio, what are you thinking? Like, do you have like a vision in mind before you walk in, or is it just like whatever happens, man?
I'll be honest with you. So we went with Eric. We did the first stuff with Eric, and we did it like track by track. And just because of like our situation, the first thing we did, we didn't have a bass player. Mm-hmm. So we did it track by track, and we definitely wanted to capture something. It's always the name of the game, is trying to capture something in the room. And we did our first 2 things with him, and we loved it. And then Tyler was like, Mikhail wants to record us. So we went over to Back Room, and it was a completely different experience. Like everything, it's like, so really like we knew what he did. So we were like, let's try to do something really polished. Mm-hmm. It was cool. And then it was like, you know what, dude? It's like, let's go with Eric. We love recording with Eric, and we love Creep and stuff. So we did this time around. We went in and did it live.
Okay, so this is a kind of a live situation.
Live with overdubs, and it's like we always kind of have a vision in mind of like how we want it to sound. We definitely want to sound like raw, but like refined. Mm-hmm. And like, you have those like natural things that happen in the room, and like, playing like real amps and stuff like that, as opposed to like Neckscars, who when we record, we we were in the process of doing our full length, and it got shut down. But we recorded up at Nada Recording in Montgomery, John Niclario, and that was like
I know who John is. I've dealt with him for a few records. Like I'll do something and it has to go to him, or he's done something and had to come to me.
Yeah, John's great. I've recorded with him, like known him for like 20 years. He's a friend, and but a completely different experience. You're very locked in. It doesn't get as loose as you kind of want it, and like we're definitely like we try not to stray off the path of like how we sound live. We just want to sound loud and full and tight, and that's kind of like how we always envision it. It's really, I feel like for what we do, we play like hardcore punk. It's like you want it to sound really full, but like you want it to sound a little refined, but not too like there's some great records that are completely like you got mistakes and everything on them that are like that's a great part of sometimes recording. But
for me the mistakes are part of the art.
Exactly.
But as an engineer guy, I have to do what the band asks me to do. So if they tell me they don't want the mistakes, then we got to fix them. But I would prefer to leave some of the oops in, because the oops is what makes the record. You're listening to like some record from the 80s and there's a bunch of oops in there because your studio time was pretty limited back then because you had a serious budget, or you were going to somebody with like basically no equipment whatsoever, one or the other. But you're getting to the point where what you put down is what you got. Mm-hmm. So you do the best that you can. Maybe you punch in a few times, but that's about it. And I feel like those records have more personality.
Yeah, I agree. I've always said that it kind of adds to it a bit. Even listening to some bigger records, like there's plenty of bigger records that have gone out there with flaws and stuff, and like
Rain and Blood,
The Police, there's all kinds of stuff. So, Will, who does the writing in the band? Is it more you or everybody?
I'll be honest, it's just the way our situation is set up with like, everyone's like lives somewhere else. It's basically me and Tyler get up in my apartment and like we make demos on like Logic. He comes over, sings them, and then we send it to the guys, and then we hash it out in the room when we book like an hour. And that's really how it's gonna have to be, I guess, for the foreseeable future, or at least until we get like a rehearsal space. That's like something we're gonna try to look into to get something that's our own next year when stuff happens. But aside from that, that's really how it is, and it's cool. It's cool though. It's definitely cool. We can get in the room. We can get in my apartment on the computer. I have like a little setup, play some guitars, yell some vocals, and it definitely works for right now.
So, how much different are the songs from the time that you conceptualize them in your apartment on GarageBand, and then when you get in the room? Do they change significantly, or do they stay pretty similar?
Well, they definitely change to a degree, just because I don't like I use loop drums, and Tyler does some stuff with Superior Drummer. But aside from that, like once we get in the room with Phil who drums, it like with the songs we do now, they changed a little bit, but it was pretty like I say 75% like what we put out there and stuff like that. I mean, definitely in my experience in the past, it was always like, here's an idea and let's create it in the room together with everyone. But it's this way. This has been working for us right now for this year, especially, everyone has a little setup so they can add to it, and it makes things easier. And stuff. But me and Tyler definitely, I would say, are like, we bring a lot of the ideas to the table. Tyler's definitely directs everything. Like if he plays guitar, but like, I like will play the guitar, but he definitely he'd like do this, do that. It's definitely, this band, I gotta say, is like 60% Tyler's vision for sure.
Somebody has to have the vision. If you have 5 people or 4 people in a band and nobody has a vision, your band is going nowhere and doing nothing. Way. You can't get anything done without somebody at least at the reins. Yeah,
it's definitely him, and I compliment it with like the guitar playing and stuff like that. And for me, it's like definitely a very a positive thing for me, because I've always been like, in every band I've been like definitely like a singer-songwriter, lyrics, songs and stuff like that. And it depends like who you're in a band with. I feel like you got guys that are writers, and then you got guys that just want to play,
Right.
So it's like you got guys that want to write with you. Like Neckscars is a completely collaborative situation. Everyone adds to that band, and it's actually been really cool for me because I could just focus on like singing, and like I can write a riff and stuff like that. Or sometimes these guys like they bring full stuff to the table, and then we hash it out. You know, some things are a little weird and stuff, you know, but we hash it out, and it works out to be something that sounds like us. And I guess that's like ultimately what you want, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So.
Every band seems to have their own dynamic. For some bands, it's like you got one guy that brings a complete song, and then in other bands, it's like everybody kind of works on it together.
Yeah, and that's been like most of my like music situation is like everyone working on it together. But I'm definitely, I can honestly say at this point in my life, playing music and like playing shows for like probably like 22 years now, like really playing shows. I definitely I'm really happy with at this age of how things are working with both projects I'm in, you know.
That's cool.
Everyone's cool. It's a really positive situation, and definitely I love like all the guys in both my bands. So it makes things easier. This like Crippled Earn recording this weekend was like definitely the most fun I've had in a long time, and the roughs sound really cool right now. So,
that's cool.
Yeah. Not enough can be said about actually liking the people in your band. Listeners out there, if you are in a band and you're in a band with people you don't like, you're not actually in a band. You are a hostage.
Not everybody can have dressing rooms on opposite side of the place.
I remember when I was on tour with the Sounds, the drummer and the singer, they were in a bus, but the tour manager had to relay all the messages. It was like so crazy because at one point, and I was like, wow, that's insane. You guys don't like each other that bad? Like, oh yeah, everything is through another person.
I wouldn't. I mean, I guess it would have to be serious money for me to consider any situation where I am not 100% like cool with the people that I'm sharing the stage with. Like, it's just not worth it for me to put myself in that type of anxiety. I would just be like every day. Just every day worrying, like, what the fuck is next?
See, I was in a situation like that once where I was the middleman and certain people didn't speak to each other. It didn't last very long.
Yeah.
I got tired of it real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, and at the end of the day, like, I guess we can all probably agree on this 100% is like, this is supposed to be fun.
Yep.
It's just supposed to be fun. You're supposed to, like, everything that bothers you when you're doing it is supposed to go out the window and until you have to deal with it again, you know?
Yeah, I've always said that, and times I've had problems with bands, and like I've had to have that talk where it's like, listen, I'm not having fun here. I already got kids. I don't need more kids that are grown-ups. So if you guys can't get your shit together, like this is just not working for me.
Yeah, 100.
Because now, like you said, it's not like there's big money on the table.
Yeah.
So what's the point then? Like,
yep.
If I'm not putting up with it for money, then why am I putting up with it at all?
Yeah. Definitely. At the end of the day, it's like the final product of what you're putting out in the world and like how you're presenting it when you're getting to do like a live show. Really, all it's ever been about, And like, maybe sometimes you get some cool color records because I'm super into vinyl. You get someone to put out a cool record for yourself and you get like a million different colors. But like, that's really, and just having a good time with everybody,
So as a guy that is not into vinyl, I was actually talking with Gary about this earlier. Maybe it was today, maybe it was yesterday. I don't remember. It's not really important.
I think it was today.
What is it about vinyl that really pulls you in? Because I look at it and I go, this is just going to take up more space in my life that I don't have. And I'm never going to play it on anything. CDs and well, not even CDs, but just digital media is so much more convenient for me. I don't see the allure.
I love my Spotify account. I have a Spotify account. I think I like it so much more than Apple Music. I tried a bunch of different ones over the years, but I've always gone back to Spotify. I think the platform is really great. And even though I do buy records like regularly, I love like getting the record, like the stuff, everything that goes along into the record and like all that stuff. And you are right. I've gotten rid of records. I sold creep records, like records to downsize my collection of stuff. I had doubles up and whatever. But I think it's definitely a collector's thing for me. And it does sound, I have a decent turntable, like, and it's nice to put on a record. And another thing is I definitely have some attention deficit problems. So actually sitting there and spinning the whole record while you're trying to do a million different things in the house is definitely like the big thing for me.
I feel you. Yeah, because like I grew up on records. My dad has probably 3,000 records in his basement, and I used to go down there and fool around with the turntables. And I understand the media, but when I transitioned to CDs, because I was tapes and records as a kid, because I'm 43 now, so I grew up analog. And as soon as I could get myself a CD player, I made the transition. And I probably own close to 4,000 CDs at this point, also taking up a lot of space. But now they're in boxes, and those boxes are stored away because I ripped them into my own MP3s, in 2006, and I just put the other stuff away, and it's just sitting somewhere in a corner because it's just so much more convenient for me. For me, I don't like Spotify. I don't use Spotify at all.
I'm picking up what you're putting down, I think. So let me ask you a question. My wife is the same way. My wife chooses to own, she doesn't do Spotify, but she chooses to own the file.
Yep.
That's her way. And I heard a podcast with Brian Fallon from the Gaslight Anthem, and he's like, well, with digital streaming, you're leasing the music.
Yep, you're just borrowing it.
You're borrowing it. So is it because you have like this, that's actually your music? Like you paid for it on CD, you uploaded it onto your hard drive. Gary, are you in that situation too, or are you a Spotify guy?
No, I'm totally, I need to have the file.
You need that.
And I'll tell you why. Because there's a very specific thing that I use to justify this. I read things years ago as ebooks became a bigger thing, and it was talking about how you can own a Kindle or something, and over time, if the rights change or run out or whatever, that file on that Kindle can disappear because it's not your file. It's just like you said, you're renting it. It's not your file. So if the rights change, you may have paid for that book, but suddenly you don't own it anymore, which is just stupid. It doesn't make sense to me. So to me, and I'm a guy like Len is talking about. I got a huge CD collection. I got it on shelves in the hallway in my apartment, and I've got a decent sized record collection. I got a lot of the old records that I had when I was a kid. My old metal records and like a bunch of hardcore records, and I still get vinyl on occasion. Just I don't even have a record player anymore, but I like having the bigger artwork.
And you get the sound card.
Yeah. That, and eventually my goal would be to put some of the records up around the apartment because they look cool, and I like having that. But I like to have the digital files, none of this DRM stuff, so you don't have to worry about who owns it. They're my files. I own it. A lot of the stuff I have, I ripped from my own collection. And a lot of it is stuff that you can't find anywhere else, like old demos and stuff like that. And I'm good with that. Like once in a while, like I'll listen to something on YouTube, and I've used Apple Music before. I never really used Spotify, but that's my own personal preference because having seen the numbers, Spotify pays the least out of all of them. So just on principle as an artist, I don't like using Spotify. But I've tried Apple Music and I've tried some of the other ones, and honestly, the only one that I really use regularly is YouTube because you can find tons of stuff on YouTube.
And it's free.
And it's free. And if I want to sit here and I'm practicing, like sometimes when I'm sitting around with my guitar, I want to play along with a certain song. I'll just pull it up on YouTube.
Yep. Same.
And I didn't do this consciously, but the truth is also YouTube, not that the rates are great by any means, but YouTube pays better than some of the other ones.
Yeah.
You know, so the artist gets, in a lot of cases, the artist will get a little something from that. You know, that 0.00001 cent or whatever. But it's just the principle of it. It's just, I like owning the files and having it so that I can take it on my little external hard drive and I could go wherever I want. If I wanted to be a DJ and do a DJ set at a club, I have the files. Everything is there. Everything is ready to go. My whole collection, you know, going back who knows how long, you know, for as long as I've owned a computer. I have files from like the Napster days and
same here.
Fucking SoulSeek days. You know what I mean?
I'm going to tell you right now that one of my first like real adult jobs in like 97, 98, where I actually had like my own desk. It was right when like T1 and T3 connections existed at businesses. And I mean, I would just come in and sit in my private office because I had like a private spot, and I would just download and download and download LimeWire, Napster, everything, just whatever, all the stuff that had all the computer diseases was me. That was 100% me. I was infecting the entire business. But you know what? My MP3 game was for real. But going back to what I was saying is that I actually prefer Bandcamp. I feel like if I'm going to purchase the record at this point, even if I want the vinyl or a cassette or whatever, I can buy it directly from the band, and they're going to see the money in some way.
Yeah.
And I actually have it set up that every month I go on there and I spend $75 to $100 and get new music every month from different, just small bands, just trying to give back to the people that are out there producing music. And I started this during COVID. I'm going to continue it after COVID because I want new music in my life, and I want to be able to provide some of these bands with a direct influx of cash, no middleman or very little middleman, because obviously Bandcamp takes a little bit of a fee unless you buy on their no fee day. But regardless, they're seeing the bulk of that cash, and then I own that file. I download it in like multiple different formats: FLAC, lossless, whatever, regular MP3, and then I load that to one of these 15 hard drives on this desk, and I own it, and I'll own it for as long as the hard drive exists.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way I do it too. And a lot of times, you know, I bought stuff off Bandcamp, but my first thing is I'll try to see if I can buy a physical copy. Mm-hmm. Because the other part of that is that, and now I'm sure the mathematics have changed, but, you know, the thing that really hurts bands is that nobody buys CDs anymore. And I say this as a guy who used to work for distributors and used to work for a pressing plant also.
Yeah,
you could sell, you could manufacture a CD back in the day for like $3 or so, and then sell it for 10. Like a band is making $7 off a CD, and now that doesn't exist anymore. You know what I mean? Like, that's why, to me, the physical copies, you know, just on principle for myself, I like to try and get the physical copies, because in my mind, hopefully, they're getting a bigger piece of it.
Right. Even when bands have it, like, price it yourself, or no, this is free, just download it, I still give them money. Like, I won't walk away without at least giving you $5. If it's 10 songs, I'm giving you $10. If it's 3 songs, I'm giving you 5, and somewhere in the middle for the rest. But like, I'm not gonna just take free music and not give back for something. It just, especially now, I can't even go to a show and catch you. So, you know.
Yeah, now forget about it. When we used to play, a lot of times when we would play with younger bands, I'd try to buy something.
Yep.
I'd go out of my way to do it, just because that, you know, these guys aren't making money anyway. It's just knocking down their losses.
Yeah, everything definitely helps when you could to like contribute at a show to like a band for sure. I even like when I see like an opening band that like supporting like on a bigger tour, like even with the merch guy, like I'll even give him a tip when I pick up stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Just, you know, that's all that cash in the jar that he has out there will add up to something, you know? And it's definitely cool to see that people still buy music on a physical comment or even like on Bandcamp, because I feel like, you know, music with the streaming, we can all say that. I think people take it for granted. It's all I think.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, kids. I've said this before, but kids don't understand how easy they have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
there is no hunt.
I think we're all at the age where we were like fishing through music, through like the liner notes, finding all the bands that were being thanked to check out them. It's like,
yes,
that's me. I'm in that.
See, that's you know, Len, we're hitting this trend of like we keep having older dudes on.
Yeah, I think we gotta get some younger.
Yeah,
kids
we gotta get somebody younger just to give a different opinion, because every time we all talk about it, you know, whoever we have on, and it's like, yeah, kids don't know how easy they have it, and
I mean,
now it's so easy to just look shit up and pull it up on your computer.
It's just a factor of having lived it and then seeing the other side, because we got to grow up with computers. We didn't just get born into computers. Like,
right.
These kids that were, let's call it, born in 98 are, you know, 22 now, and all they've known is internet and computers. Yeah. And we lived an analog life long before that. I mean, I was an adult before I had an actual computer, like a real computer that could do anything. So, like, it's just a different personal experience, digging around, looking for music, looking for things to do, just in general. Not even like, I could spend an entire day not leaving my couch and talk to 500 people in a day via a post or two and have a great time. But I used to have to actually like call somebody on the phone and set up some fucking plans, or know that I'm going to meet them at the mall and then go to the mall and hang out at the mall and then meet some other people at the mall. My world is so much larger and it's so much easier to be in contact. It's different contact, but it's easier to do. And it's because of these creature comforts that we have designed over time.
Yeah. And I said it, you know, the first time Billy Club went to Europe was 2004. And basically that tour was booked by me and by our friend Yuri in Belgium, who was the one that drove us around, and his band was on the shows also. And I said it back then, I said, you know, here I am sitting on my computer booking a whole European tour. Like, what did they do before computers? Like
how did this happen?
Like, what were those long distance bills looking like?
Yeah, seriously.
You know what I mean? Like, how? Because you can't book a tour by fucking letters. You know what I mean? So like,
you better start a year in advance if you
that's
are.
That's what I'm saying. Like, how did they even do it back then? And
I don't even know. I can't even put my head around it.
I remember the first tour I went on, DIY tour. We had AOL, and someone had a printer, and we map quested all the directions from that, like that. And I remember Kenny in our band he was like, we should just use the map. So we always got a Randy McNally. Always have to have your Randy McNally in the van, and that's like crazy now. I wouldn't even know how to go about now with GPS now. It's like,
hey, Len, you remember those days when people used to have to print the directions?
Yo, bro. I mean, me and Rand McNally go way, way, way back. Every tour that I went on before, we'll call it 2009, I had a map in the fucking band, because there's no way I was depending on like pre-printed MapQuest maps only. Now, like, I would still do them, or TripAdvisor, like one of those, whatever those things were. But I think it was definitely a lot of MapQuest, and you had to buy it. It wasn't even something where you could go on the web. Right now, you can just go on the web and get free directions. No, you had to buy the damn program and hope that they updated their maps sometime in the last 2 years to be effective. So I always had like an actual book, like fold out map, or I would stop and buy the new map in whatever like state we were pulling into, because that was the only way to be 100% sure that you were getting to the location. And I mean, I've played shows in pretty much almost all the connected states at this point. I think there's only like 3 or 4 that I haven't been in. Kids don't know how easy it is to just type it into your phone, and it yells directions at you. Like, you don't even have to do anything.
It tells you when there's traffic.
Yeah. And I mean, if you use Waze, it tells you where the police officers are. Yeah.
Len, do you remember a band back in my old band? We did a bunch of shows with them. It was, they were from Philly or like Lehigh Valley. Trunk Full of Dead Bodies.
I know Trunk Full of Dead Bodies. I don't know them personally, but I know the band.
So we toured with them, me and Tyler's first band, and those guys, we were doing the MapQuest things. They were straight up. They would just get to the city and ask directions.
Yo, how can I get here?
How do I get here? Stop at like, where is this place? They were crazy dudes. They were like, aside from being like probably the most destructive band I've ever been on the road with, they were like, yeah, we just have a map, man. We just get to town and then we ask.
Ask around. Somebody knows. Ask a punk.
Yeah, ask a punk.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, that kid's got a mohawk. He knows where the show is. Oh, the old days.
So I figured out that you also do acoustic work. So
yeah.
So I heard some of it. I listened to it. I liked it.
Oh, thanks, man.
What are your influences for that?
Definitely. I like a lot of growing up, and I guess like what really turned me on to more of like, I guess like the Replacements, but definitely like a lot of the alternative country stuff, like definitely rock and roll punk dudes like the Drive-By Truckers, Jason Isbell, a lot of that stuff. A lot of Chad Price has Dragged the River with John Snodgrass, stuff like he was in a band called Armchair Martians, Social Distortion. So it's definitely I definitely love like that country feel to things, and it's definitely like the Replacements kind of went in that route, when Paul Westerberg went and did solo stuff. So it's always been like,
See, I like the Paul Westerberg solo stuff more than the Replacement stuff alone, like as an act.
Yeah, it's definitely and some of the contemporary stuff that's like, I guess like the newer stuff coming out of Nashville, like Tyler Childers, and like even like I think I love Sturgill Simpson and stuff like that. But I feel like a lot of those dudes, even like Whitey Morgan and the 78s, like they're all just like punk rock dudes. Like it's got a punk rock feel,
Well, you and I were talking about this the other day. There's always kind of been a connection between like punk rock and some of that more country type of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Like
it's an odd connection, but it's something that's been kicking around for a long time. Like even going back, like with what Mike Judge was doing and stuff like that, and then there's a lot of other stuff that kind of connected those two worlds. It's kind of odd.
Yeah, it's like you can go, like I feel like there's a lot of guys that play like folk music that stay in punk rock, or like Tim Barry from Avail, like he's completely got his own. He's not touring with like. I don't really ever see him touring with many Americana acts or country acts or per se. It's always like people are going to see that. Like even like Chuck Reagan. I know Chuck Reagan tried to cross over. He had like a video on like country music television, and he's playing like I remember he was in Rumble Seat before that, like which was him and Woolard, and it was like this 2-man like folky like folk punk rock, but had like definitely like a southern Like, you could tell it was like a roots music kind of thing, and No Idea put that stuff out. Like, and a lot of guys in the punk rock, like the fest world, they definitely have they went acoustic. Like, I know Dave Haas is from the Loved Ones, and what's the other band he was in? None More Black, I think.
Right, None More Black is correct.
Yeah, and definitely. He's definitely like built his own thing around there, but you could definitely see him on like a bunch of different bills, you know.
I think it's funny that Tommy Stinson played bass for Guns N' Roses for so long. He's
actually an hour and a half from where me and Gary live. He's in Hudson, New York, and he's his own studio there. And I don't know, I love that bash and pop, man.
My thing is how did he last for basically 16 years under the thumb of you know who? That's more about my statement than anything else. Like, how could you be in a band with him for so long and not have murdered him? Because I probably would have.
I mean, I guess the money helps, you know.
Money helps everything.
He might be. Maybe Axl just has his own bus.
Oh, I'm sure of that.
Just the Axl bus.
Listen, at least Axl is showing up on time now, so.
Well, he knows he can't get away with that shit anymore.
Oh, absolutely not.
Wasn't he in AC/DC?
For a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was singing for AC/DC the last shows that they did because Brian Johnson had a serious hearing problem, so he had to bow out.
AC/DC, man, that is seriously. I think that was like just knowing that, like those, like I just always was in love with that guitar sound. I think that's why I was always drawn to the Marshalls.
Yeah, man, that is. If you want to know what a Marshall sounds like, it sounds like that.
Yeah.
And that was always like, just even the way it's recorded, like, just, you know.
And it's not even cranked gain.
Nope.
It's just
like everybody thinks you got to turn the gain up to 10. It's like, no.
He's probably got his power channel on about damn 10. Yeah. But the gain's probably only like 2 or 3. And I mean, he's just ripping those riffs. And if you going back to the beginning of our conversation, if you want to know what an 800 sounds like, that you listen to AC/DC and you know.
Yep. Yeah.
That's
I love AC/DC. Like, some people talk about them and like really hate them. It's usually younger kids that I've run into that actually hate them. But for me, as a dude that grew up in the 80s and the 90s, I fucking love AC/DC. I don't care.
I was gonna say that's another gateway drug for a lot of people. The same way, like I
heads you down that line.
Yeah, the same way I talk about Kiss. A lot of people don't like Kiss, but Kiss to me was the gateway drug. Like, without Kiss, I wouldn't have discovered any of this shit.
How did you discover like heavier music, Will?
Definitely. Well, growing up, I was like, it was always like punk. Like, I took guitar lessons at like 12, and I didn't like guitar lessons. And then like Green Day and Nirvana came out. But like when when I was just listening to music before I was like playing the guitar in high school, it was like, I remember like when my mother, we would go to Spain when we were younger, and there was all these bootlegs shirts in some of the villages out there. And I came home with a Pantera shirt with Weed Leafs on it, a long sleeve.
Nice.
And I knew Metallica, and I was like, it was almost like kind of weird because it was like, man, this shirt is awesome. And I was like, my friend's father, this kid that lived in the house next to S&J Deli. I grew up with this kid, Paulie. Yep. His stepfather was like a metalhead. Him and his brother were both in some metal band. He used to probably play what's that place? The Laundromat on Williamsbridge. Remember the Train Depot?
Oh yeah, the Train Depot.
Yeah, he used to be like one of those metal dudes in like the late 80s, early 90s. And like his dad had all the stuff. He had Pantera, like Ministry, the Melvins, and like I was like, this is awesome. I just, you know, and all I could play was punk rock at that point. So like and Green Day and all that stuff, but
that's all I can play now, so it's fine.
Yeah. But I was like, that really drove me. It really got me into like checking out other stuff, you know. Like Green Day was like, I guess like Green Day was like my first punk band, and like then, you know, of course, like I was super big into the Fat Records, like, which was kind of metal, like Strung Out and Nose for a Name.
Yep.
And then I went to, when I was in high school, my friend gave me a mixtape, and I used to go drink 40s with him outside of Coney Island High, and we were like 15 years old.
Nice.
And on that tape was like Black Flag, Minor Threat, the Stooges, the Pixies, Orange 9mm.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
And
right.
it's like, and then, you know, like it goes back to before, you know, you're searching through all this cool stuff, and going to Generation, definitely Generation Records downtown.
Yep.
That was it for me. Like, I'm surprised I almost failed out of high school my first year, private high school, because I was getting on the D train and going down to the city from Fordham University.
Nice. Yeah, we were just talking about Orange 9mm before, because actually that was why we had an earlier vinyl conversation, because I just got the first Orange 9 EP on vinyl.
Oh, awesome!
They re-released it
on Rev.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
awesome.
Rev re-released it, like colored vinyl, and I was like, you know what? That is like one of my top 10 records of all time. And I'm like, you know what? Let me get the vinyl, because that'll be cool to have.
Yeah, I saw them at Coney Island High on St. Mark's with, it was like the first time I saw them, and it was like amazing. And I didn't understand anything about it. Like I never heard this kind of music before.
I guarantee you I was at that show.
Yeah. I remember like buying a Lucy cigarette, because remember you could buy Lucy's there?
Yep.
And I think Power Man 5000 might have opened.
No.
I think that might have been another bill I saw them on. I forgot who was on that show, but it was definitely, because I seen all the punk bands. I saw like so many punk bands that I was always into seeing, especially those California punk bands growing up.
Yeah.
But Orange 9mm, it might have been Doggy Dog.
I don't know if they played. I remember one of the times I saw them, Shift played with them, I think.
Yeah.
So it might have been that show. I don't remember. But
So I had already heard Burn before.
Mm-hmm.
I heard Orange 9mm, but I was at Best Buy, and this record comes in. I hadn't heard the Orange 9 7-inch, because I just wasn't aware of the switch in the bands. I just knew that Burn broke up. And then this Orange 9 record comes in, and my friend Chris rips it right open and puts it in. And I'm like, this sounds so fucking familiar. Like the voice, who is this? And then like I run over and I open the thing, and it's driver not included. And I'm like looking at it, and I'm like, this is the dude from Burn. I was like, oh, wait a second. So then I bought the record that night, and I probably have listened to it every month since 1996.
Yeah, it's really
same here.
It's really incredible. And even just like, was that stuff that's like, just like the production on it.
It's so good.
It's so good. The production on it, like it just sounded so big. It sounded so big.
Yep.
Like,
I've had this argument in the past that I feel like while we've gotten better equipment and technology over time, the 90s was the point at which recorded music sounded the best.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. That do you know anything about the production of that record in particular?
I don't. It had to be analog, because I mean, at that point, anybody with a digital system was at most it might have been on a DAT.
You're talking about driver not included?
Yeah.
The full length? I don't know. I think
I would argue that that was done on tape.
Dave Jordan produced it, if I remember right, but I don't know details of it. Let me see if I can dig up anything about it.
Anyhow, there are just a number of records that came out in that time period. I'm talking between 95 and 99, where we hadn't really fully made the transition to digital, but everybody had figured out how to get the maximum sound out of their analog equipment while still using some newer techniques as well, like throwing in some samples here and there, etc. But I honestly feel like dollars for donuts, some of those records cannot and will never be touched in terms of sonic depth and quality.
Yeah, Absolutely.
I mean, put it this way: as I look it up, Dave Jordan did stuff like Nothing Shocking and Dirt and Facelift by Alice in Chains. The first two Alice in Chains records. So more than likely, he was probably doing it analog. Yeah. Just looking
Dirt
at
and Facelift are just mean records.
That's what I'm saying.
Goddamn records.
Yeah, he did Nothing Shocking and Ritual by Jane's Addiction. He did Social Distortion. He did Facelift and Dirt. He did Reality of My Surroundings by Fishbone.
Yeah.
So he did Sound of White Noise for Anthrax. So he was probably doing it.
Underrated record. I fucking love that record.
Sound of White Noise, love that record.
But a lot of people will like downplay that record because they don't like John Bush for whatever reason. They want Belladonna. And while I do love the Belladonna stuff, that first record is undeniably really damn good.
I totally agree, and I like them both.
Yeah, I don't really have a problem with Bush, but I mean they lost me after Stomp 442 as a whole.
Yeah, but it was the songwriting. It wasn't
songwriting, not.
Yeah, it wasn't the singer.
John Bush.
Yeah, it wasn't him. It was just the way the songwriting started to get a little weird.
Yep, but that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, we could get into a whole other thing.
So for me, we've been dancing around like a lot of hardcore stuff. What do you listen to outside of like hardcore and punk and metal stuff? Like, what really floats your boat for like just a fun listen?
A fun listen? Well, I'll be honest with you, I like Coldplay.
Okay.
A lot of people hate on Coldplay. I'm into like some of the ambient, like really ambient stuff, like Hammock, like Explosions of the Sky kind of stuff. I could definitely get into stuff like that. And I definitely listen to a lot of like, I'm always in tune with what's going on like in like the country Americana world. Like I have a ton of artists that I'm always on my radar. Definitely Drive By Truckers are like one of my favorite bands. Athens, Georgia. They've been in a band for like 30 years. And them, Jason Isbell, Sturgill Simpson, stuff like that. And then I'm always into hearing newer punk rock bands. Like my other bands are definitely connected to this thing called the Fest in Gainesville, Florida.
Oh, I know about the Fest.
Yeah. And we played my old band. We played it a few times. So like. It's always cool to see what like bands like the Lawrence Arms are doing, or like they just put something out. Strike Anywhere just put something out, like stuff like that. And but definitely, I'm definitely into like a lot of acoustic music and stuff like that. It's definitely even like the solo stuff I do. I like I'll put like pedal steel on it and stuff like that.
So, do you ever play shows out on your acoustic stuff, a solo or as like a duo or something?
Just by myself. It's been like it's a slow burn, the kind of thing, because I'm wrapped up in 2 projects. So, but I definitely want to come in. I'm gonna go to Creep, and we've been talking about doing like a record for like a minute. So it's just a matter of like mapping it all out. And I definitely don't want it to be like what I've done in the past, where it's just acoustic guitar or like an accompaniment. I want to do like a full band record.
Okay.
Do it live and stuff. I'm into like super into acoustic guitars. If I could spend like all the money I had on acoustic guitars, I would.
I own one acoustic guitar, and it is literally the shittiest acoustic guitar that's ever existed. Like I don't think it even holds a tune. One strum and you're out. Like I should probably get a real acoustic guitar, because like I spend so little time playing that I feel like I would just be wasting money. Yeah, I mean, like it's one of those things. It's like you're into it. If you're playing acoustic guitar a lot, you'll notice the differences. But like you certainly with like a lot of things, and me and Gary have talked about this. Like you don't need to spend a lot of money to get a good sound on an acoustic guitar. Like even like you can get like there are guys that are like they're playing like $5,000 like handmade luthier like really And I'm not spending $5,000 on that. It's just not happening.
I mean, I don't even like spending over $500 on an electric.
Yeah, but like as the thing I'm saying,
me. But I know I put a beating on my stuff.
Same here.
So I'm I'm not going crazy money wise.
Yeah.
The two guitars that I play live right now, I spent no more than $100 each on, outside of upgrading like tuners and pickups and pots and stuff. Like the actual guitars themselves, I paid $100 flat fee for. They're just like run-of-the-mill Ibanez guitars, but they sound like $1 million, and I had them set up so that they would play like $1 million. And I don't care if somebody fucking steals it, because, or if I drop it or whatever, like somebody throws beer at the stage or any random thing that could happen. I look at the guitar and go, whatever, and I would just move on. Like I have a bunch of like really expensive guitars that are sitting around that I'm not comfortable taking out, because it's not like I'm playing nice venues. I'm playing fucking dumbass basements and like shitty bars. Like, why would I bring something super nice to that?
Well, that's what I was going to say. If you spend that much money on it, you're not going to want to take it out.
Yeah, I play for both bands I play in. I just have like a $700 Les Paul Tribute. That's like, it's a Gibson. I use it. It's been dropped. It hasn't broke yet, but like I did break years ago, like a '99 Gibson Les Paul Standard, and I have a couple nice guitars at the house. But I don't know. I just learned over the years, if like you pull the pickups out, and you pull the pickups out if you're not happy with them, and stock pickups are cool too. Like, and you know,
they could be fine,
and the guitar stays in tune. You're ready to.
Well, I find, and I had this discussion with Malone from Billy Club many times, and a couple other guys too, especially with the heavy stuff, it's all in the hands.
Oh yeah.
You know? Yeah. Like,
if you got shitty hands, you got no fucking time, bro.
You can have the nicest pickups, but it doesn't matter because it's all in the hands. Because listen, Eddie Van Halen could pick up your shitty guitar
and make it sound like $1 million.
It'll still sound like Eddie Van Halen. You know what I mean? But like, I have my, not that I play guitar live, but I have my one guitar that I put some money into and hooked it up real nice, and it sounds fucking great. And I spent like $400 or $500 on it. Spent a couple $100 to fix it up, put some good pickups in it, and like that's what I'm using to record demos and stuff at home. And like basses, it's the same thing. Like, I got two good basses that I spent between $300 and $500 each on, and they're all stock. I didn't have to upgrade anything, and they sound fucking great.
That's I mean, I have a Mexican P bass that I record with stuff at home, and everything's completely stock. But like with the plugins I have, it sounds rad.
Yeah.
You know what? The P bass is, I'm not going to say underrated, but not as loved as it should be. I feel like that of all the basses is the one that just blends in almost any style you can imagine. You can just make it fit.
It's a player. Yeah. It's a player's instrument. That's how I like all the guitars I play. I don't have any even though I do want to buy like I want to buy an ESP, but I don't have any metal guitars. Like I don't own one, and I definitely want to get one in one. But like I have like Strat, Telly, SG, Les Paul. It's like, but I definitely Jerry in Crippled Earn plays. He got a really awesome trade. Some guy traded him his the ESP Deluxe 1000, the LTD, the Eclipse.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
he traded him that for some like Yamaha guitar he didn't want anymore. And he was like, "Oh, I got this. Like, I got the guitar I was gonna buy for like a trade." It was awesome. And the thing rips though. It's definitely it's a nice playing guitar, and it definitely sounds better than a Yamaha.
Those are good guitars.
Yeah, I have 3 full-on ESPs, and I have 2 LTDs that kind of go along with it, but I don't play any of them. Yeah. I play these like shitty Ibanezes because they have the perfect neck for what I'm playing currently. If I was playing in an actual like hardcore band and not like in kind of a metal band where I have to be moving around the fretboard really quick, I would probably play my ESPs a little bit more, where if it was like just literally strum riffs where I didn't have to worry about like the finger movement as much. So yeah, I mean, I do love them, but they don't come out very often.
Yeah, I like all, I've tried a bunch of different guitars and I like them, but everything I own with the exception of one bass is all Ibanez just because I like them.
Yeah.
I just like the way they feel. I like the way they sound, and they're just,
My first guitar was an Ibanez, the Ibanez Talman, and the reason I bought the Talman was because that's what Needles from the Offspring played.
Yep.
Oh God.
Yeah, and I didn't love the guitar. I did not.
I liked the Offspring for about 30 seconds.
Yeah, same here.
And then it just grew old. It Smash is like an okay record, and then after that, they lost me completely. I was not into it.
After that, I heard Wise.
That's 30 seconds more than me. I've never liked them at all.
His voice is so fucking annoying.
Yeah. Not a fan at all.
Yeah, Smash was definitely the only record I actually really loved. It was definitely like one of those records that I had along with the Green Day and the Nirvana and stuff and like buying your own kind of CDs and stuff like that. That was definitely one of them. But I definitely lost interest in the Offspring like when I started making more music after that. Like bad. Like and then they started writing really cheesy songs.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about them any further. The less said, the better. Yeah, but we're on the.
I'm fine with that because I will just continue to shit on them.
But how do you guys feel about Pennywise?
I love Pennywise.
I also love Pennywise.
But I mean, listen, I'm a metal guy.
All right, I get you.
So like, you guys are more punk rock. Like to me, like, It's all right, but I never got deep into it. But
see, I straddle the line. I like a lot of punk. So you brought up, Will, actually one of my favorite bands that not a lot of people talk about, Strung Out. Suburban Teenage Wasteland Blues is in the top 10 of my all-time favorite records. I don't think I could get enough of that record. Yeah,
that you know what they use on that record? Because in Neckscars, the guitar player Justin is a power Strung Out fan. And he's like, let me ask you a question. He's like, did you use a Metal Zone on that?
Oh, that's definitely a Metal Zone because it sounds insanely thin. But the songs are so good that I don't even care.
I know. It's Strung Out. Strung Out puts out, even when they weren't as big as, when there was a period where those bands were kind of not really they weren't playing Irving Plaza anymore. It was like the Taking Back Sundays of the world were playing Irving Plaza.
Right.
But they were still writing great records. I have them all.
Because those bands were all relegated to the Warped Tour.
Yeah.
That's why.
So, but what I'll say about that record, it's specifically the bass tone that makes that record tolerable with the guitar tone. The bass tone on that record is so solid. It's not overdone in any direction, but it's like a solid just missile in the middle of the record. And it just keeps me interested. And he's playing so fast and clean. There's not a lot of bass players out there that could pull that off.
Jim Cherry was he's not around anymore, but he was
he was the guy.
He was the guy. He wrote a lot of those songs. And I'm pretty sure I listened to a podcast that his wife was on. It's this podcast, This Was the Scene, about the Jersey pop punk scene.
Right.
And they had his wife on there, and she was he was super big until he left the band. He was super big songwriter for the band. But they went through some, they always still write the song. They always still write great songs, but they definitely had these heavy periods. I saw them once with 18 Visions, which was really weird. And they toured with 18 Visions. It was all that.
Wasn't Jim Cherry in Pulley too?
Yeah, he was in Pulley and Zero Down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember, I listened to Pulley a little bit back in the day because of, all those comps that came out for, what the fuck was that record label? Fat Wreck.
Fat Wreck, yeah.
Survival of the Fattest.
Yep. I think I still have most of those. Because I work for Red Distribution, who handled all their distribution, so I would get just stacks of all that shit.
Yeah, those records were all those bands were that was really like wanted me to play in a band. Like, and like No Effects definitely, you know, they were always there, but it was always like No Use for a Name. I definitely love Good Riddance, and No Use for a Name, Strung Out, Lagwagon.
Lagwagon is another band that I'm just absolutely always been a big fan of. Since I heard them, I was like, oh, I'm on board with this band.
Yeah. All metal guys.
Yeah. Playing punk rock. Really? Yeah. Oh, yeah. But they're playing punk rock.
Yeah, Gary, you should definitely dive into into those kind of bands, because the playing.
I'm sure over the years, I know I've heard a lot of it. It just didn't stick with me as much.
Yeah, I get it. But, yeah.
That's because it didn't have enough.
And also like being from the Bronx, I feel like a lot of my friends that we were all listening to punk in high school, I was super into this West Coast thing, like with some people, but a lot of people were gravitating more towards with like Rancid, H2O, the Bouncing Souls, and then like Hellcat Records, like the Murphys. This was
right.
Like Murphys and The Business and that was like, so you were either wearing like high socks and going to see No Use play at Coney Island High, or you had like your studs and like, a mohawk and stuff, and you're listening to Anti-Flag.
Well, you had a lot of those kids that, it got exposed to all that stuff through the Warped Tour.
And those
like like those comps in the Warped Tour, like you had kids that were only listening to like Warped Tour bands,
Yeah.
like what we're talking about with Kiss and AC/DC being gateway drugs. Like Warped Tour was gateway drug for a lot of those younger kids. Like think about a lot of those Bronx Underground kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that was probably their first exposure to stuff like that. Like, and even that is kind of late for those kids.
Yeah, completely.
Or early, I mean.
And the Bronx Underground definitely, I think at like the height, like when Billy Club, you guys were doing those shows with like My Bitter End and Muir, like all those bands, those kids, like that was like, to me, looking back at it, because I was like definitely like I didn't see much of those shows, but they were like, you could definitely tell, like it was awesome to see that all these kids were coming together just to see music. And those were like the bands that everybody was like.
Well, it was crazy because we wouldn't play with those bands. They would mix us with like a ska band.
Yeah,
like we played for them twice. We played once in the church and once at the Beach Club. They did.
Yeah, I remember.
And the Beach Club we played with Endwell.
Yep.
But also, oh man, what's that other band? I'm forgetting the other band. I think we played with the Cleve Agents, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I forget now. But it was one of the more punk rock like local bands that had done well with them. But then in the church, we played with like a ska band and like a couple other bands that were totally not hardcore bands or even like hard bands. But that was their thing. They always did that, and it was cool because they were able to mix the shows. They were doing shows in the Bronx, in the basement of a church. They had a lot of neighborhood kids coming through, and kids just were hungry for just anything.
Didn't My Turn to Win play with you guys there one night? Or was that one of Walter's band?
My Turn to Win played. Maybe you did play with us? I don't remember.
Because I feel like My Turn to Win played a show with you guys, and then just Walter happened to be there. Or maybe we played with Walter's other band, Set Ablaze.
He was in Friendly Fires, Walter?
Yeah. Set to
Flames?
Flames.
Maybe?
Yeah, Set to Flames or Friendly Fire, whatever.
He was Flat Earth Society when I met him in the day. With, Flat Earth Society. Because remember, did you guys play the Temple before? Those shows? In Brooklyn?
I mean, Flat Earth Society definitely did, and I played the Temple. Actually, I played the Temple with Billy Club and 5 Minute Major, who I was in before Billy Club. So I had been there a bunch of times, and I used to work security for them sometimes too. But My Turn to Win, I don't remember. Yeah, maybe you guys played with, unless maybe you played with Everything's Ruined. at the church?
Maybe. I can't remember. I feel like, yeah, because Justin wasn't playing. Justin was playing with us, so maybe it was Everything's Ruined. I don't know. But I know we played down in that church at least once. And it was a cool spot. I really actually enjoyed playing there.
Yeah, they had a lot of kids that were just hungry for music.
Yeah, just hungry for new music.
I never got to play an FLC show, but I did get to, coming up, my old bands, we did play some of the first Bronx Underground shows. We never were able to get involved with that. I guess but it's funny now, years later, the Bronx Underground don't really run it anymore. Crippled Earn in April had a show at the FLC for the first show with Len Gary and Crazy Eddie.
And I was going to go to that show.
And then this COVID thing happened, and so it didn't happen. But yeah, you guys that was like, it was really cool. There was always, during that time, there was always music. And people I have to this day that I'm friends with, I met through all that, like the Temple and the FLC shows and stuff.
Well, what's funny is talking about the Bronx Underground, a lot of these neighborhood kids just were getting exposed to that kind of music that way. There's a few people that got exposed to music that way that are still in the scene now.
Yeah.
You know, like Enziguri.
Yeah,
didn't Davey sing on the record?
On the new Crippled stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, he sang on it. Yeah, definitely. And I know Davey. I met Davey at, you remember the Acheron in Brooklyn?
Yeah.
My band was, we started a tour, and it started there, and Game Day Regulars, and he came out, and then we had like so many mutual friends, and then me and him we've been friends ever since. But we've been in the same room prior to knowing each other for like less than 10 years now. We've been in the same room at shows he's been in the scene since like all that stuff started.
Yeah.
And he's definitely, those guys, they're very good friends of ours, and I was really stoked he came out to Philly to sing.
Yeah, because I know him for a long time, and I know Julio, the guitar player from back, playing
Costello. Forgot the name of them. I saw them at the Continental once.
Yeah,
but I forgot the name of their band.
I'm spacing out on it now too.
Yeah, I forgot the name of their band. Brian Keith was a singer, I think.
Yeah.
Turns to Fall.
Yes. Yeah, so I know him from way back then. So, some of those young kids that used to go to those shows ended up sticking with it for the long haul.
Yeah.
And are still kicking it now. And that's cool.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's it's definitely good. Enziguri, man, they're that band is definitely even like friends I know from like Fest World, like Matt in the band is like, he's from Jersey, and it's cool. It's cool that they're still bands in the Bronx.
I mean, the Bronx always had a scene. It's just that the Bronx doesn't really have venues.
Yeah. And Dave's he's definitely been trying to do as much as he can. We had a show that got canceled and moved to Jimmy Ryan's, but in the South Bronx, there was like a really vibrant scene, like Ungla, and it got canceled. They shut it down like the day of, and then he moved the show to Jimmy Ryan's.
Yeah, I remember that, because that other place was not that far from my job, so I was just going to go there straight from work, and then everything ended up getting messed up anyway, and I wasn't able to go to Jimmy Ryan's. But the Bronx just doesn't have venues, because when we played, when Candiria decided to do a 5-borough thing, we played in the Bronx with Candiria, and Billy Club and Candiria played Alfie's, which is probably about
bar, right?
It's the size of the room that I'm sitting in right now.
Well, I heard like all the merch was out on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a picture with the Candiria guys. I came in really drunk, and I was just trying to buy the new record, but I got out of work really late. But they were still like at the bar drinking, and I was like, I took a picture with them, and then like 3 weeks later, we went to go track our first EP, and I guess Tyler knows Danny from Doomsday Morning.
Yeah, the drummer.
And then he
good dude.
then he put us on the list, and we saw them at the Voltage Lounge, and it was awesome. I wasn't drunk. I got to enjoy them. They were great. It was killer. They were so good. Last time I saw Candiria was at I think CBGB's in or some maybe the Wetlands. I don't remember.
Oh my God.
I was a teenager.
I saw them so many times.
I mean, I saw them so many times back in the day, but the last time I saw them, they actually played Trenton at the Champs. And the show was the weirdest show. It had a bunch of people, like a bunch of bands that are not necessarily hardcore bands by any stretch, or metal bands for that matter. But they kind of fit in with Candiria at the same time. But I was there specifically to see Candiria, and they didn't disappoint with setlist. Because I'm one of those people that I really liked the newish record that they put out. But I feel like there isn't even a bad record in their catalog. It's just that if you were expecting 300% density, or when you got What Doesn't Kill You, or the record after that, you're just going to be disappointed, because they went a slightly different direction. But for me, I still thought those records were pretty fucking good.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I'll definitely say this. I've never, since back when I heard them in the 90s and to what they did now, there's still always this flair to them that
no other band has.
They're just untouchable. They're just the guitar, the bass player, and then you got the hardcore kid who's singing in these crazy times, and these crazy time singers just destroying it. Unbelievable. There was not that many people at Voltage Lounge, but they owned it. They just killed it.
There's politics involved in reason why there weren't that many kids at that show, and it sucks. But it is what it is. My thing with Candiria is that I feel like they were so far ahead of the game in the beginning, and then that whole gent thing happened. And they were kind of already doing that on their own before it, but it wasn't nearly as developed as these kids have made it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it's past them, because I think that they're still better musicians and songwriters. And both Danny and Ken are great drummers. They just weren't around at the right time to take advantage of the situation, because they disappeared right when the shit would have been perfect.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, if I remember correctly, Meshuggah has flat out said
that they influenced them.
That they were an influence, which, I mean, it doesn't, you can't get a better cosign than that.
At all.
And because I refuse to even use that word that you mentioned. I don't believe it exists. But for that type of music, yeah, you could easily make the argument that whole genre started with Candiria, even before Meshuggah. And I remember seeing Candiria open for Meshuggah at Coney Island High too. And
I feel
that as well.
Meshuggah was already going, but they didn't incorporate that style until after.
Right.
They were a lot more straightforward. They might have played in odd times, but they weren't start, stop.
Right.
And then after they spent some time with Candiria, all of a sudden, and then you got bands from Philadelphia, Life Once Lost, which was literally just a metalcore band. And then Meshuggah influenced them. So then it's just third generation of the same thing. And you can, if you really listen to it and pay attention, you can hear it. Yeah.
I think Candiria got different, and I could see why people dropped off, but I think over time, they were always doing something that caught my ear and I thought was interesting, and that all of those records had something on them that, even though at points they got more melodic, and I know from friends of friends that I know Carly's a big Deftones fan, so that kind of influenced them to go in some of these different directions. But that's cool. I like the Deftones.
If you're not stretching and reaching, you're just standing still.
Exactly.
When I got Candiria, the first Candiria record I got was Surrealistic Madness, and I got it maybe 2 weeks before I got Beyond Reasonable Doubt. So I had them on a tape, and one side was one and one side was the other, and all I did was just play this fucking tape over and over again until the tape wouldn't play no more.
Yep. I got turned on to them real early because actually when I was working at Tower Records, their old guitar player, Eric, used to come in a lot, and one day he randomly stopped me and he's like, yo, I see you wearing hardcore shirts all the time and metal shirts, and like, yo, check this out. This is my band. And he gives me the second, I think it was their second demo.
Okay.
And I took it home and I was just like, whoa, what is this?
Fuck?
What this is crazy. Fuck? And then I saw them because they would end up playing a lot of the local shows. So I saw them at CBGB's. I saw them at Coney Island High. I saw them different places. And I was like, whoa.
One of my favorite shows was at Coney Island, and Candiria, E-Town, and VOD played the show. And it was just insane in there.
I'm pretty sure I was at that show.
We didn't know each other at the time, but I'm sure the whole show was full. So, yes.
And when I saw them back then, they didn't have a bass player. They just had the two guitars. Mm-hmm. And then one night, I'm hanging out in the basement of Coney Island High with the dudes from Marauder, and Mike was playing bass for Marauder at that point. Right. And we're talking about random shit, and he's talking about how he likes jazz and this and that. And I'm thinking to myself, like, why isn't this dude playing for Candiria? And then all of a sudden, there he was playing for Candiria.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely hearing Candiria for the first time, everyone was just like, yo, man, there's jazz in this stuff. And it was like crazy. And I was like, it was definitely definitely one of the most interesting things. And it was heavy and it was brutal and it was awesome.
But even the heavy parts are still jazzy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like if you sit there and really listen, like the way they would swing certain shit and oh my God, just no disrespect to Danny, who's a friend of mine and I love the dude.
But
watching Ken, I remember one time I saw Candiria open for Kitty at Irving Plaza. And I'm up in the VIP, up in the balcony, and we're just looking down watching Ken play, and the guy's a fucking animal.
Yep.
But he's an animal, but at the same time,
controlled.
There's so much finesse going on that it's mind-blowing just to watch the dude.
Well, he's the first person where I would watch him set up his kit, and it's like he's got most of the drummers back in the day had the biggest drum kits you could find.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody had, at least 3 toms and 55 cymbals, and Ken would show up with 1 crash, a ride, 2 toms, a kick and a snare, and hi-hat. That's it. That's all he needed, and he sounded 10 times larger than any of these other drummers out there trying to beat the shit out of a kit that they didn't even know how to play at the time.
Yeah, they got some giant rack.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, there he is with this little jazz setup, and you're just watching him like, holy shit, working magic.
Like, wow, that's a real drummer right there. That dude is good.
Yeah, I think it's the rack. I always had a problem with the rack. The guy that brought the rack drum set, not gonna lie.
I mean,
the rack,
takes up half the stage.
Yeah, my brother used to have the rack. Like, dude, come on, man. I was like, why do you got the rack? But yeah, that's
used to drive me nuts doing sound at Castle Heights when you get a band like that.
The rack.
It's like they got the rack, and it's like, for this place, dude, really?
Yeah.
Come on.
Absolutely not.
In Game Day, we played a basement show, and there was this like pop punk band that was on it, and you could tell they were really going for it because they were on this was like 2012 or 13. They were on a 3-month tour, DIY 3-month tour, and he gets to the basement show and he goes up to me. He's like, "Can I borrow your bass amp?" Because he had an 810 road case. That was like, he couldn't fit it in the door.
Wouldn't go in
at the door. And I was like, yeah, you guys can use whatever you want.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. An 810 road case is not made for a basement show.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I think it's only made if someone's loading your gear in for you.
Well, that too. Like, why are you killing yourself on a 3-month tour taking that out?
Yeah.
Like, take something a little smaller, bud.
Yeah. It was just hilarious. I was like, and now that was the point I think I'm saying, man, I'm in my 30s now, man. I'm so not about the 810 anymore.
Well, that's been my thing lately, just with whole going to play shows. I've always been I'm going to bring my own cab because I like to play out of my own cab. And as the years have worn on, I've softened on that just due to timing and understanding how things work, but also my back. I just can't, like, I've got these Mesa cabs and lifting them. It's like, I'm like, I actually need somebody to help me lift this fucking thing now. I'm not young.
I have a Silver Jubilee Marshall cab, and it sounds great, and I love it. I just Crippled Earn. It's like I definitely needed to downsize just for a variety of reasons. Like we don't have a van anymore, but I got I thought it would be an easy substitution, but it's still a pain in the ass. The orange 212.
Oh, that thing is heavy.
Yeah, I know.
And it doesn't have wheels.
It does not have wheels, and it came with a road case. I got it with a road case. And
does the road case have wheels?
Yeah, the road case has wheels. I don't use the road case. I'm trying to sell it on Reverb. I'm like, road case, dude, it can't even fit in my car. The road case barely fits.
Okay.
Just drill some holes and put wheels on that bitch.
Yeah, that's what's gonna have to get.
That's what I did.
Yeah,
I have an orange. I have Lenny Bednars's old orange cab. He sold it to me like 10 years ago at this point, it seems like. But I actually went and bought the mounts and wheels from Mesa and mounted them on the cab, and it's solid now. And I can just roll it wherever I need to, and I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I am I did this band in Jersey I was playing guitar for a couple years ago. We did some tour dates with the Slackers, and those guys have it down to a science. They bring the support band to use all their gear.
Yeah. Oh yeah, a lot of bands do that.
Yeah, I was like, all right, you guys can use everything, I guess.
So where did you go when the Slackers played in New Jersey? Was it in Asbury Park?
No, these shows were in Canada.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the first show we played with them was at the Bell House, but they all they're New York guys. So the Bell House I think has backline for a nice like theater room has backline, but for that band I used like a small Fender amp, so it was a pretty easy thing. That and a little pedal board, and play a lot of open chords.
Gary's not a big ska fan, but I love the Slackers.
The Slackers are amazing, dude. Like any way you cut it, and any way you cut it, man, they're a fantastic like band to watch, and like they've been at it for like a very long time,
forever.
Like, yeah, I see Vic plays a bar in Riverdale because he lives around the corner from it in the Bronx, and like whenever he plays that bar, it's like it's just packed and sing along. It's insane. He's just banging on a vintage arch top and like a little amp, and it's like insane. They definitely have loyal fans because whenever they do those holiday shows, they're sold out always.
I actually backed into liking the Slackers from listening to Django's project, the All Stars, and because I was in love with that, and then I figured out that Vic was playing for them on like certain songs, and then I went down the line just like you would do with anything else. I'm looking at the liner notes, and I'm like, oh, he plays for Stubborn All Stars, but now he's actually doing the Slackers, and that's his band. I'm gonna listen to them, and I listen to them like this is just as awesome. So that's kind of how I backed into it.
Yeah, I actually I remember in New York City that venue, the Roxy.
I do. I only went to it once.
I went to it once. There was 3 nights of like Epitaph. I think it was the Bouncing Souls one day, the Descendants one day. But
I remember that.
Yeah, and the Slackers one. That was the first time I saw it. But it was like when I was a kid, I never got into the. I never knew. As I got older, I really grown to appreciate the old ska and like. And like what bands like the Slackers are doing, playing like that kind of ska. But for me, it was like, it was Punk Kid. It was like Less Than Jake, the Boss Tones and stuff like that. But now, like I'm older, I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. This is like really great. It's got elements of jazz and soul and
yeah. I mean, I like both.
Yeah.
I'll put it out there. I like both.
Yeah,
so like, there's there's times where I might want to put on Less Than Jake, but then there's also times where I might want to listen to the Toasters or Slackers or even especially Mephistopheles.
Yeah, Mephistopheles. I remember that Roseland. I went one of the third Roseland shows I went to was that Ska Against Racism tour.
I was at that show.
Yeah, and it was just like it was amazing. And I saw Less Than Jake, and they were throwing 7 inches of candy out, and I was like, I got a 7-inch.
Yep. That was a good show. I enjoyed that show. I went to the one in New York, and I went to the one in Philly.
Where was the one in Philly? Electric Factory?
Troc. And I did find out that I do hate the Blue Meanies. I don't like that band at all. And if I never, ever had to hear them ever again, it would have been too soon, even at that show. Yeah,
I definitely don't. In the ska bands, I don't like Buck 09, Save Ferris.
I like Odd Song. Wait, you don't like Save Ferris? Well, no, we're done here. Sorry, Gary, we're done here. I gotta go. I thought we were friends, and now we're not friends anymore. Sorry.
The coffee. I spilled your coffee.
God, no. My story with Save Ferris is that I guess it was '96, Real Big Fish's record, Turn the Radio Off, came out. Mm-hmm. And I was obsessed with the record, but there's a song on there about she has a girlfriend now, and there's a girl singing on it. I'm like, who the fuck is this girl singing on it? So I'm digging through liner notes, trying to figure out who it is, and they're like, it's this person, Monique, from Save Ferris. So I was working at Best Buy. I spent a year trying to order the Save Ferris demo, or whatever, it was like a 5-song EP or something like that, to the store, and I absolutely could not get it. I couldn't get it to my store. I couldn't get the guys at Princeton Record Exchange to get it. Like, literally nowhere could get it. And this is before the internet, where I could have just bought it. Like, they weren't selling it on the internet. Like, I could look it up and like kind of find the band sort of just like via pictures. There was like 2 pictures of them on the internet at the time, and like it was just like this thing. So when I finally got the record, I was immediately in love. I was in love with the record before I had it. So for me, when you say, "Oh, I don't like them," I'm like, "Oh man, that's a stab in my back," because that was like that was my white whale for so long.
Yeah, when I go home later, I think I'm gonna pop on one of those. I'm gonna pop on one. Maybe I need to revisit it. It has such a, they were definitely whatchamacallit though. I saw them a bunch of times though. Like the
best show I ever saw them on was them, the Pilfers,
I love the Pilfers,
Real Big Fish, and Goldfinger all together, all 4 of them. I was like, this is the greatest show I'm ever gonna see for punk ska.
I saw Goldfinger was one of, I saw him at the old Capitol Theater in Portchester with Bad Religion, not far from where I'm at right now in Portchester. You remember the old 7 Willow Street over there? That was like the first, like my 3rd or 4th punk show. I was obsessed with Goldfinger, that record. And there's a new ska band now that I'm really into, the Interrupters.
Oh, it's so good.
They're so good.
But let's be clear. It's rancid.
It is rancid.
It's rancid.
It is rancid.
Well, with a girl singing.
But yeah, it's just everything about that last record they put out though.
It's so good.
It's just, the production's great. The songs, like, it's a banger record. It's great when you hear a record that's just like start to finish just rips.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't happen that often. Like, usually there's at least 1 or 2 duds on the record. But yeah, the Interrupters is a band that I slept on at first, and I would hear a song here or there, and I'm like, what is this? This sounds like something I should like, but I don't even know what it is. And then, like, one of my friends posted it, and I clicked on it. I was like, oh, that's this band? Because I had been seeing the name, but I didn't ever go out of my way to go see them. And at, I guess, the end of last year, I was like, if the Interrupters come around in 2020, I'm going to go see them. And then I just got totally, woohoo.
Well, next month they were supposed to do that giant tour.
Yeah, well, COVID screwed all that up.
It was them, Green Day, Weezer.
Pass.
Yeah, pass. But it was
I liked Weezer in '94. I don't like Weezer in 2020 because they haven't written anything good since '96. So why would I care?
You don't like the Green album?
No, I like the Blue album, and I like Pinkerton, and then I like sporadic, like singular songs here and there. But as the years go on, I like less and less of them.
Pork and Beans on the Red one?
I don't even fucking know. I don't even know. I don't even know.
You guys totally lost me because Weezer, no. Although I will say this, and maybe Len might be happy about this, or he might get annoyed by this. I kind of like Goldfinger.
Yeah,
Goldfinger's awesome.
Yeah, Goldfinger kind of rules.
I just went to see Goldfinger in November. Like, that was my birthday present for myself. No, it wasn't with MXPX. They played in New Jersey at the Skanksgiving. And, like, I bought myself a ticket, and Goldfinger headlined. I didn't know really any of the other bands that were playing it, like Big D and the Kids Table. I don't know these like newer ska bands. They were all fine, but I had a chair and I was just chilling, waiting for Goldfinger to come on. And then I went down on the floor and I had a great fucking time. I wish they had played more old songs.
I didn't know they were still kicking it until they started doing the quarantine videos.
Yeah.
He's like a big producer, John Feldman, and my band that I used to play in Jersey, we did Punk and Drublic in Ohio, and they were on the stage we were on, and I was on the side of the stage watching them, and that dude is like, he's got it, man.
He's like 55 and like
so much energy.
So much energy. I mean, he basically jumps through the ceiling of any club he's playing.
You know when you work in an office and you're standing up on a computer, those phone things you stand on? He had one of those right by the microphone. And running shoes on because he's just in the air all the time. Yep. Insane. With a suit jacket on. Blown away.
But the first two Goldfinger records are personally untouchable for me. Like, they could never do anything better than either one of those two records for me. And then after that, they have good songs on each record, but I'm not necessarily in love with any of the rest of the full records. A friend of mine told me that the newest one they put out, which was like maybe a year and a half ago, which has Mike Herrera from MXPX. He's in the band, but he's finally playing on a recording for them. And so, like, I should probably check it out, but I haven't yet. Maybe that'll be my plan for the rest of this week. Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll buy that fucking record and listen to it.
Oh, yeah.
But Gary, I'm actually surprised that you don't dislike that.
I heard it in the record store days, and I kind of liked it. I still have the CD.
Okay.
And I thought they were okay.
I annoyed the shit out of my mother with that first record. Like, so my mom would work late. So she'd get home at like 10 o'clock. All the time, and I would be still up, music all the way up at 10 o'clock, just banging these records out. So then I'm bouncing back and forth between like Snoop and Dre and Goldfinger and Real Big Fish. Like, I'm just back and forth between the camps of like nonsense and occasionally some Marauder thrown in there for good measure. And my mom would walk in and she's like, "What are you doing?" Like, if I was playing hip hop, she was like, whatever. But if it was like purely either the punk or the heavy shit, she's just like, "It's too late for this. It's too late. Turn it off." And I'm like, "No, not happening." And I'm just like, another notch, just to drown her out a little bit. I'm like, go on your side of the house. I'm good.
Were you guys back then when they popped up in the radio? No Doubt, yes or no?
No,
it wasn't for me.
I saw H2O open for them at Tramps once, and I actually decided to give them a shot. I stayed and I watched like the first two songs, and I just couldn't do it because at that point she was real screechy with the voice, and it just drove me nuts. I couldn't get down. And obviously she's chilled out with it since, but I'm just
Yeah.
I had the record before the record that broke, so I was already on board.
Right.
No, it's like a full-length record.
No, but it's got a cover.
Yeah, red cover.
Yeah.
Trapped in a Box is the song that I saw. I saw it on alternative, like 120 minutes or 120 minutes or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And like I was already listening to like Boss Tones and and like other ska-esque bands, and then I see this band with this attractive girl singing, and I'm like, okay, I kind of like this song. It's cool. I'll buy it. So I saw it at the record exchange. I purchased it, and then maybe like a year later, the record that broke them came out, and it was cool. Like, I don't have a problem with the record, but I'm not going to tell you that I'm like a huge fan, because I'm not.
Yeah, same here. I did like when I did see them with Goldfinger at Roseland when I was like definitely in top 10 shows I went to by myself. I almost got.
That's the list I want. I want that list. But give me the top 10 shows that you went to by yourself.
Goldfinger twice. One with Bad Religion. One with them. Metallica at the Garden.
Okay.
What tour?
The one with Corrosion of Conformity. COC was the opening.
Okay. I was at that show.
Who else I got on there? Shows I went to by myself. Definitely a lot. No Use for Name, Anti-Flag, Coney Island High.
Nice.
Yeah. Weston. I see Weston. I saw Weston with Cooter and John.
I'm going to tell you, that is a band I could never get into, was Weston. I tried really hard. So many of my friends were like, I love this record, the Weston Gets Beat Up or whatever record. I bought it, and I just don't get it. It's just not for me.
Yeah, and then he did the band after that, Beach Slang, that he has now. That's currently like his band. Who else I saw? Definitely, so, I'm drawing a blank on this.
Well, did you give us 5? I'll take 5.
Yeah.
We like to pop surprise questions on people. We don't want you to be too prepared.
Jughead's Revenge at Coney Island High. Yeah, that's definitely in the top 5. I remember. I remember I did see and in the top 10, MXPX and Sam I Am at Tramps.
Mm-hmm.
That one. Which Sam I Am is one of my favorite bands. Definitely top 10 favorite bands. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. I probably am not completely accurate on that, but definitely Goldfinger shows and Bad Religion and stuff.
So my top show that I went to alone is Deftones with Glassjaw opening. I did not make it to Deftones because I got thrown out during Glassjaw with a broken hand from just smacking the shit out of kids during certain sections of songs. So, it was at the Electric Factory. I'm going to say it was 99, 2000, like right when Glassjaw was like breaking, and Deftones. Yeah. And Deftones had Around the Fur and White Pony had just come out. Yep. And like, it was just, I was so amped on seeing that lineup, and I lost my shit. And literally I went home and my hand was like this, and I'm like, that's it, I'm done.
Where was that? What venue?
It was Electric Factory.
Okay.
So it was a big fucking show too. I mean, so there were a lot of kids to smack.
Oh yeah, I went the night before Thanksgiving in 2000. We drove out the night, but it took 4 hours to get to the Birch Hill.
I remember the Birch Hill.
Thursday, Diecast, and some.
Well, I will tell you, I was there.
Who was the rest of the lineup?
Doesn't matter who the rest of the lineup is. I was there because if Glassjaw or Thursday were playing in that time period between like 99 and 2002, I was there. Either one of those bands, I was there. So Glassjaw and Thursday played Wetlands, and I'm there, and I'm smacking the shit out of kids that weren't expecting me to be smacking the shit out of them, because they weren't really bands but they're bands that made me feel something, so it would make me go off anyway.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Glassjaw, they're in like your top.
I'm not going to say they're in my top, but at the time, I mean, we're talking 20 years ago, and I was in early 20s, like not emotional kid, but your brain is not the same at 40 as it is when you were 20, and the things that you felt then were a lot closer to the surface.
Was that first record Glassjaw?
Yes, first full length.
Yes.
On Roadrunner.
Yeah.
Yep.
That record was really changed. It influenced a lot of music.
Yeah. Because Len and I had this conversation on an earlier episode that I think we had it on an earlier episode that was like I've seen a handful of records over the years where whether you liked it or didn't like it, like I just saw that it was the start of something different.
You just knew. And
I felt that way about the first Korn record, and obviously I was right about that. And I felt that way about that first Glassjaw record too, that it's something different. Like this is gonna start a whole new genre.
Yeah. That's like when The Used came out. Like I was like, oh, this is like poor man's Glassjaw.
Yeah, it's like a year later, The Used was doing the same style.
Yeah, because they had those records had total knockoffs, and the first Slipknot record was like that too. They had total knockoffs, but then they also had other bands that were influenced and took that influence and spun it into something new.
Yep.
So like Korn had Coal Chamber, which was just a total ripoff, and Glassjaw had bands like The Used, and there were plenty of other bands that basically were just ripoffs. You know, it was like the Wish.com version of some of these bands.
Yeah.
And then
Coal Chamber is definitely the Wish version of Korn.
Yeah, I remember hearing that first Coal Chamber record, and I'm like, is this Korn? And then, like,
you guys like some new metal?
Yeah. No.
I mean,
I've heard some new metal.
Can we all agree on Snot?
Snot was actually a little bit different. I don't have a problem with Snot.
I got into Snot because
not a fan.
Lagwagon and all the Santa Barbara bands were like, Snot's from Santa Barbara, and they were almost like all the punk kids like Snot, and I revisited that record like recently, and I'm like, wow, this thing rules. It's pretty good.
You know what? That record is not that bad, even 20 some years later. Now, the thing that drew me into that record was how it starts. Say something for the record. Tell the people how you feel. Yo, fuck the record and fuck the people. And I'm like, all right, I'm in. And then the rest of the record, like, it starts to teeter off as you're listening to it. But there are some riffs on there.
Yeah, it's definitely cool. What new metal bands you don't like? Like
most of them. Literally almost all of them. I don't like the closest I get to being in love with a band that could be even lumped in at all with new metal is Fear Factory, and that's mainly just because they do the singing thing, but they're not really a new metal band.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about that too, that they were like one of the first bands to do that.
Right.
The whole singing, screaming thing. But I mean, I'll listen to some new metal stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that I'm not into. Like, oddly enough, I'm the only guy in Billy Club that does not like System of a Down.
I do not like System of a Down at all. I don't get it.
All the other guys are always, every now and again, they're like, yo, you got to give him another chance. And
nah. Nope, don't give him any more chances.
I can't stand that dude's voice, and just even the music. Because oddly enough, Billy Club sometimes gets compared to them a little bit, and I guess it's just because of like some of the weird changes and stuff. Like if you don't know like that kind of music at all, like that's the closest thing you can give as a reference, I guess. But I don't see it.
I don't see it at all.
Yeah, but I just can't get with it. There's other new metal bands, or quote new metal bands like. Like, listen, I don't hate the new metal era of Machine Head. I think, Len, you and I discussed this.
I hate that era of Machine Head.
Yeah,
I can't do it.
I like the Burning Red.
No, unlistenable record.
Some of it, I shouldn't say I like it. Like, some of the songs on there I like. And, like, I like some other, like, Incubus. I liked a couple of records.
Incubus and System of a Down. That was a show I went to at Evergreen Plaza. My friend from Wisconsin was in town. I was like 19 or 20 years old, and he was like, "We got to go to this show, man. These awesome bands are playing." And he took me there.
Was that 1998?
Yeah, Irving Plaza. I think it was in the day too.
I was at that show.
Yeah, we were there.
Incubus, I don't consider a new metal band.
Okay.
I mean, like, they had fun. They were closer at the beginning to me to like an extension of the Red Hot Chili Peppers in that they were like funk driven with heaviness, and I wouldn't lump them in. And then they made a change, and right around the same time that Deftones made the change and went a whole new direction that wasn't new metal at all. Well, like, I think they get lumped in much like Deftones because there is a record or two that kind of sets them in that course. Like Incubus Science is a fucking amazing record. Absolutely. But it could be seen as a new metal record. Right. And I do like that record. So I guess there are a few new metal records that I like, but they're few and far between.
Well, because new metal was kind of a mix of like the funk stuff, because Korn did that, but Korn also had the 7-string, the downtune shit.
Right.
So, like, some bands just took the funk part, like Incubus just did the funk part, didn't tune down. But then there were other bands, like Deftones just ended up going in their own direction. But they got lumped in because they were friends with Korn. And when they started, you know, here's Chino in the jumpsuit looking just like he's in Korn.
Right.
Yeah, Deftones, I just recently listened to a podcast with Toby Morse's podcast, and he had Chino on it. And it was a really good conversation, and but it was definitely like at the first Warped Tour I went to, Deftones were on it, and like I never saw or heard anything really like that much like that at 14, 15 years old.
Right.
It's like these dudes, they came on stage with beanies and dickies on, and it was like a punk show. It was heavy, and they were crazy. And then the next Warped Tour I went to, Limp Bizkit was there.
Oh,
and that I didn't like that at all. Like, I didn't get it. And the turntables are really like, it was just not good. And like, then a year later they were like the biggest new metal band besides with Korn.
See, I have a band that I absolutely love that gets in retrospect gets lumped in as a new metal band just due to the tuning and the closeness of some structuring of songs at times to Korn is Disembodied. I don't know if either of you have spent any time with them, but they're tuned exactly the same as the first Korn record. And people like to say because of the timing, like the timing of the riffs.
I don't hear that at all.
I don't hear it either, and I never really cared for it, but I've played it for people, and they're like, this sounds like Korn. And I'm like, all right, but you're wrong.
Yeah, because I listened to that recently because we had talked about it, and you sent me some of that stuff, and I listened to them, and I don't hear that at all.
I'm glad that you don't. I'm just saying that people have said it to me in the past.
I guess if you really like,
if you water it all the way down.
Yeah, but I mean the tuning, like there's so many bands now that tune low like that.
Yeah, but it's the time frame.
Yeah, I guess, but I don't hear it at all.
Good.
But I mean, the Deftones went and like they started off on that path, and then they went and did their own thing.
And that's why I have a hard time lumping them in as a new metal band because they grew so far from it.
Yeah, I mean, I was paying attention to them from the start because I remember before their record even came out, like I was working at Tower and all the label and distribution guys would come through, and I was friends with all of them, and like they'd talk up stuff. So like they're like, oh, these guys are friends with Korn. They're signed to Madonna's label, and like I saw them before. It was either before the record came out or right after the record came out. I saw them at the Limelight, and nobody knew who they were. And yeah, you know, like I said, he had the jumpsuit, so it's like, oh, it's Korn's buddies. But then, you know, they progressed and did their own thing.
So in '97,
pre-Adrenaline, you went to see them at the Limelight.
This was, like I said, it was either right before Adrenaline came out, but I already had an advance or at least a couple of songs. Like they either gave me an advance or a sampler, and because I knew a couple of the songs already, or it was right after Adrenaline came out.
So Incubus, I actually saw them at a small bar on South Street in Philadelphia. and I don't remember who they played with. It's inconsequential at this point, but it was for the Incubus. I mean, it was for the Science tour. And that was right when they had brought the actual DJ on tour with them, because before that they toured without him.
Right.
And this stage at this place was so small that the DJ actually had to stand in the hallway, like almost completely out of sight from the band, to be able to fit all his stuff. So he was literally playing this show blind. But they fucking tore this room apart for the 5 of us that were in there. Like literally there were 5 people in this room.
That's crazy.
I had a great time.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, I met the one thing I still remember seeing them and like being up close when they were playing at Irving Plaza. He had the congas.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and it was definitely there was a lot of weed smoke in that place.
The worst experience I ever had was going to see Soulfly, because that was terrible. It was just terrible. And I'm talking about on the first record. I went and saw them, and it was just a painful experience to watch Max do that after knowing all about Sepultura. Like, I kind of saw them blind. I had heard maybe a song or two, and I had hoped that the rest of the record had something actual metal on it, and it was sad. It was
more
sad,
like,
yeah.
I did Roots, and now I want to do more Roots.
Yeah, I want to do Roots only.
What about Il Nino?
No, absolutely not. No, thank you.
We used to have a room.
No,
they have a space in Hoboken. The band I used to play with, that was where our room was in Hoboken. And he was like, yeah, I'm like the landlord is a guy from Il Nino. I was like, oof. Me and Tyler's old band, the guy that did that record, we recorded a record with this guy, Eddie Wall. And Rob Caggiano did it, and we were like, man, we were like doing this record with them, like, wow, it's going to sound amazing. They had a completely different vision, and we had no vision.
Oh God,
it didn't sound like a produced record. And it never came out. So, but it was.
That's always like a problem. It's a problem I actually come into a lot, is when bands come in and they don't have a vision for their project, and they're just like, the worst thing I can hear is, just make us sound good. And I'm like, I don't even know what your idea of good is, so how am I going to make you sound good? Like, are you just depending on my vision of your band that I've probably never even listened to before? Or like, do you want to give me like a pathway to success here? Like, bands have to understand that they need to have a vision. So you experience that going in somewhere where you're just like, yeah, we're just here to record some music, and they were like,
this was like a production deal. Like, we had a deal with Eddie, and Rob Caggiano did it, and it was like they just kind of thought they kind of want to do it like like we're just like, it's like a punk record, and we had us play live. And I'll be honest with you, like, I don't think we were good enough to play live.
There's a certain level that you need to be at to play live, and
it was just like, and it was in a really expensive studio upstate, and like, we weren't paying for it, but at the same time, it was like, definitely didn't feel right. We had more fun recording with John Niclario, and
right.
I think, and I'm pretty sure, like, after all the production was done, maybe Rob might have been playing guitars over stuff. Like, it happens.
It happens.
Yeah, they should tell you, well, if you're going to go record live, you should definitely spend 3 months practicing pretty regularly and getting real time.
We've had that discussion many, 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 many times.
One of the things that I tell bands, if they're even questionable, I'm like, take 30-second snippets of your song or riff sections and just sit down together and make sure that you guys all know exactly what it is you're playing. There should be no questions when you walk in the studio about how does that riff go, because at that point that tells me that you're not prepared.
Not at all.
As a like engineer, when you're doing projects, what drives you crazy? What about the vocalist that comes in with no vocals? Is that a tough one?
I've sent people home 100 times because my job as an engineer is to steer the ship, but your job is to tell me where we're going. And if you don't have your lyrics or quote unquote your directions, we don't know where we're going. So I'm not willing to sit there because I price my projects. I will price things by project. So if, I say that it's X amount of dollars, I've already worked out in my mind that we're going to spend, 14 hours on tracking, and I'm going to spend 10 hours on editing and 10 hours on mix. And I know that I can get away with charging you this amount of money and not feel taken advantage of. If you show up with no solos, if you show up without knowing your drum parts, or you show up and you don't have lyrics, I'm sending you home because I'm not wasting my time. Like, I'm not getting paid by the hour to sit
Yeah,
here.
the math is all off.
Right.
Yeah.
If you want to pay me by the hour, I'll sit there for a month straight and let you
there are
dick
plenty of
around
guys that
until
do
you're done.
that. There are plenty of guys that do that.
So nobody's
just tell me ahead of time.
No one's going into your studio to write a record there.
No, not typically.
I mean,
If they want to, we can work that out. But that's not how I typically price. I'm a budget guy, and I want to keep everybody, happy and feel like you know what you're getting into before you walk in, and we're not going to end up with some bill that's like crazy. So I tell you it's going to be X price, and I don't change it even if it ends up being a little bit more work for me, because I feel like we agreed to something and I'm going to stick to it.
I gotcha.
But
I back that.
Part of that, it's just like in UFC or boxing or whatever, you got two rules for showing up. You need to have practiced and make the weight. So practicing and making the weight means coming in prepared to do whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing when you get there. I'm ready when you get there. I don't show up and I'm like, oh, well, my computer's not really working today. So, we're just going to sit here and wait for 4 hours for tech services. No, I'm ready when you walk in to do whatever it is it takes to get this record done. And I'm willing to stay all fucking night if we have to, but you need to be prepared to.
Yeah, imagine you go to a studio and the guy's like, yeah, I know we're supposed to start, but I got to reformat my hard drive. So if you guys could just sit around for 4 hours,
Yeah.
like, that's stupid. But you know what? That happens so often. There's so many times, because I've been involved with bands that, like, I was managing a band and went with them to record, and I wasn't as involved as I should have been. And they get into the studio, and I was doing the bass tracks also. And they start doing the guitar tracks, and the two guitar players are playing shit that's totally different. And at that point, I just stepped in and started calling shots, and I ended up being the producer of the fucking record, like on the fly, and telling them, you do this, and then we're going to do this. And I just took control of the whole damn thing because these guys just were not prepared. And that happens so often. So many bands go in and they just, and listen, there are plenty of guys, like Len prices by the project, but there are plenty of guys that'll do it by the hour. And a lot of those guys will just sit there, and their job is literally to press record. They're not a producer. They're not going to make suggestions. They're not going to do this and that. They're strictly engineer. Yeah. And then you have a guy like that, and then they're going to be like, okay, you only got 1 hour left, and you got like nothing done because you're busy fucking around. And there are guys that are like that.
Yeah.
And it's within their rights to be like that, because you know what? They're not there to tell you how to be a fucking musician. You know what I mean? Like, and I've been through this with younger bands plenty of times, and it's like, you tell these guys, like one time I went and recorded 2 songs with Len with a band that I was playing with, and I told those guys at practice, they're like, okay, so we should run the set, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. I said we should run those 2 songs, and that's it. And they're like, really? You think so? I'm like, yeah.
Over and over and over again.
That's all we did. Every 3-hour practice we had, that's all we did. And they were like confused that that's what we were doing. But I was like, this is what real bands do.
Yeah, you got to practice material that you're going to go put down.
A lot of recording to me is like, there's a lot of gratification for it. But like, I'll be honest with you, I went away I was in Philly for 2 days, and it was like, people don't understand it. It's like, it's work. Like you're you're in there. It's like, especially with like heavy music where you're like doing gang vocals or screaming, get those headaches. It's just like, it's a lot of work. And you got like, in our situation, since we were all over the place and had like 2 rehearsals before we went and tracked, we recorded everything like on GarageBand on my phone. And then we're all home just like playing to it.
Right.
Or live tracks, just because it's like, we have 2 days to get this done. And we're very structured, especially like.
You need a certain type of musician to operate like that. And
also the thing is, like, we did it live and we never do anything live, but like we're pretty big. The drummer we had before that, we live played it. This drummer now we don't, but you have to be able to play it at a click.
Correct.
That is the key.
If you don't play it at a click, if you can't play it at a click, I can't be in a band with you.
Okay, so there is only one band that I've ever recorded that did not suffer from not using a click. And I'm going to call them out by name because I'm giving them a compliment. Queensway from Baltimore has never once recorded to a click. And you could not tell me. The last record I did for them, which just came out like a couple months ago, it's all live. We did almost all that tracking completely live. Guitar amps blaring in the room while the drums are being tracked, and then I capped some DIs, and we went in and fixed certain things. We played a couple things over just to make sure that they were like super tight, but everything about that record is real. And there are very few bands, especially in this style of music, that can pull that off, because most bands need a fucking click.
Yeah. Like the click, I think for me, it's when I say like I can't like do something, it's just like it's a studio thing. But I've been in a band for a good period of time with drummers that use it live, and it just, to me, it can become a crutch sometimes in a live situation. Like you lack that. So it was really cool. We did the recording in Philly and we did it with a click, but we still played it live. And it was cool, It's like when you have a short amount of time and you have to do edits, the click's very helpful,
Yeah.
But,
especially with repetitive parts.
Yeah.
But like I was saying, you need a certain type of musician to be able to pull that off without a lot of practice.
Yeah.
Because and when you're spread all over the place like that, that's just the way it is. And especially now with a lot of places not open and all the quarantine bullshit. But like when I was playing in Mickey's crew, we were able to, we could go with no practice and just go play a show.
Yeah.
And we were tight because that's just the way we were.
Yeah. But
not a lot of bands are like that.
Yeah. In my situation, a lot of bands that I have been in, I've been in multiple bands over the years with them. So it's like, it's always when you decide to do a project with someone, you start feeling out who you want to play in the band with. It's usually end up sometimes with the guys you've been in bands with before. And so it moves pretty quick. And Jerry that plays in our band, just he came to the first rehearsal, as almost like a tryout a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't seen him really since college. I saw him one time in Portchester, but he just knew all the songs to a T. And I was like, that's the kind of guy I need in a band.
No kidding.
Like if I go try out for a band, I know all the stuff. I fill in for a band, I know all the, we've talked about this, me and you. You're like, you going in on playing a show with 2 hours practice before.
Oh yeah. But that's, but that's what I mean about having to be a certain type of musician. Cause I'm the type that I can listen to it a bunch of times and just go. And I like that because I like living a little dangerously sometimes and just jumping into shit. Okay, we didn't get to practice, whatever. I don't give a fuck. I've done that, jump on stage with a band with 1 hour notice. Or 24 hours notice, and I'll go, and you know what? And I pull it off, but that's just because part of it is the way I learned how to play was just listening to shit and being able to play it. I don't need people to write it all out for me unless it's really complicated. But also, like I said, I like that thrill of just being able to go and take that challenge. I'm good with that.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy that.
Because I've filled in for plenty of bands over the years. And, sometimes, like I said, I had a couple of days' notice. Sometimes I had less than a day's notice. But I just go with it, and it usually works out pretty well.
And I could say that you definitely always learn something through any of those situations. For me, it's like, oh, that's like, I'll like if a band asks me to fill in on guitar or something and I have like ample amount of time, I'll just like come home from work, go on Spotify and just drill the songs. And then after a while, it just becomes muscle memory. And if you learn something and it makes you kind of a better player in a
Absolutely.
It just gives me more ideas.
Yeah.
Learn other people's songs.
Well, like I said, that's how I learned how to play. Like, I took a handful of guitar lessons, but mostly I'm self-taught. Like, I sat there looking at magazines and stuff and, like, reading tablature and listening and figuring out, like, how to play that way. You know? So it just kind of goes along with the way that I learned. But, you know, some people can do that, some people can't. And, you know, for me, like I said, half of the thrill was just like, okay, you want me to fill in for your band? Like, all right, let's go. I learned the songs. We didn't have time to practice. Fuck it, let's do it, you know? And it's fun.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's cool. It's fun when you're like, and then like, you know it, and then you go get right into it, and it flows.
Yeah, and listen, when you're in a position like what you were talking about with trying out for bands,
yeah,
like that makes all the difference, because I've seen guys half-ass a tryout.
Yeah.
Where they like barely learn the shit and they go in and they're just like, eh. And then on the flip side of it, you know, I'll go in trying out for a band and I'll know every little nook and cranny of the whole song and I'll bang it out and they're impressed by that.
Yeah, I just asked, what tuning are you in?
Yeah.
That's real. And then like you take it from there and like, but then, yeah, you got guys that come in there and they're like, just like, you didn't learn anything. And like, and I'll definitely, you know, but I'm pretty cool. If we ever had to do a tryout, I'll give you chord charts, but that's really it. You know, I'll make it easy, especially if there's like a time frame. But for me personally, I'll just try to go and like hear it out, learn it and stuff like that. And I find a good place in that.
Yeah.
And that's also realistic of what my abilities are. If you're asking me to go play in your tech metal band, not happening. Like, I can't do it.
Yeah. That's the type of thing they're like, okay, you gotta write out some stuff for me.
At least you gotta read the room and know whether you're gonna be able to do it or not. I mean, if a tech metal band asked me to fill in, I would probably need more than a few days to figure it out, but it's not something that I couldn't do. But if I had to learn like standard hardcore band stuff, I could probably do it in under a day and feel pretty confident that I'll pull it off. I might miss a note or two, but it's hardcore and who cares?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like some of these bands, it's like, depending on the type of music, it's like, okay, you know, I couldn't, like, you know, if a band like Irate just turned around and asked me to fill in, like, okay, I might need a day or two, a couple of days. But like a lot of other bands, it's like, okay, I could pick this up right away.
Well, like, so most of the bands that I've ended up in the past couple of years have all been bands that came to me to record. So like they'd record with me and I'd end up loving the record, and then somebody would fall out of the band and they'd be like, yo, do you want to come play for us? And I'm like, sure, whatever. I'm not doing anything else. Sounds like a great plan. And the songs are already like stuck so deep in my memory that it's just about finding the note, like the first note. And then all the rest of the notes are, most people write in the same patterns or same intervals. Yeah. So it's just like, okay, if this starts on 2, I know you're jumping to 6 and then going back to 5. It's just figuring out what like the plan was when this person was writing and finding that first note, and then I can just run through each song.
Yeah, it's like you plug yourself into that pattern, and then it just.
I like to call it knowing the language. Like, you know, when you play,
you gotta know the language.
Know the language. It's just like it's that, and, you know.
So like Descent, I joined Descent after they had already done a demo or EP or whatever you want to call it, and their guitar player fell out, and then they asked me if I wanted to join. I went to the first practice. And I walked in and I knew all 4 songs on the demo front to back. I was ready to go, literally from note 1 straight through to the end of the round of 4 songs. We didn't even have to stop. I didn't look up. Well, I mean, I looked up, but I wasn't like, oh shit, where are we? Like, no, I knew the songs and it was time. And I turned them and I was like, is this good enough? And they were like, yeah, you're in. You're good.
And then you started writing music with them right after?
Yeah. Basically, that's what happened right after. Like, we started working on new stuff. So it just, you got to be prepared to walk into any situation, but you also got to know your limits. Like, if Between the Buried and Me called me and were like, yo, we're going to need you in 2 days. And I'd be like, well, you're going to need to find somebody else because there's no way I'm going to catch up.
Yeah.
But I know my limits.
Yeah, just the same thing with that. And definitely, I feel like knowing your limits is one thing, but if there's something a little not sure of, it's definitely worth trying. And you could at least be like upfront with someone, be like, yo, I can't do this, or, oh, I totally got this. Let's you might learn something about yourself that you can like pull something off.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what too? Like, some people just get themselves too like mentally fucked up about it. Like, part of the thing for me is that I don't sit there and overthink it, and I just kind of roll with it. Like I said, filling in on like, a couple of hours notice or something. It's like some people will sit there and kind of stress about it and this and that. For me, I've always just been like, I'm confident with it. Like, I'll just go. And if I get, if I get a little screwy along the way, whatever. Like, I don't care. I'm having fun with it. And in the end, when you're looser, it's better.
Mm-hmm.
You loosen up and you're just chill about it and you have fun with it and you're not overthinking it. Because I see a lot of people in situations like that where they put too much thought into it and it's just, you know what? Just go with it. Don't even overthink it and screw yourself up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Before we go, because we've gone down a number of avenues. You said you were at your job.
Yeah.
How has COVID affected like your day to day? Sorry to change the subject here, but I just want to get this in before we like really wind this down here.
We've been going for 3 hours plus at this point.
You guys are fun. I definitely time just flew by. I work in the restaurant business. We stayed open through the whole thing. I'm very grateful to have this job. I've been here 8 years, and it's definitely my boss. We lost a lot of business and stuff like that, and it was only takeout and delivery at one point. So yeah, but it was, for me, I worked through the whole thing, and it wasn't like I was fortunate to still have a job, so I just tried to stay safe, wear masks. Where at one point I was gloving up all the time, but now I just wash my hands and keep hand sanitizers. But it's definitely in this business, I'll tell you one thing, New York's going to be a very different place in terms of like the restaurant and bar business.
Oh yeah, it already is.
It's and I'll be honest with you, people are like, we have outdoor dining now. We put something back. People are still scared to come into restaurants.
Yep.
And it's and like, I know in both my bands, members have lost their job. Tyler's actually going back on a job soon in the union, but like in both of my bands, like guys, their positions were like, they weren't furloughed, their positions were terminated.
Yeah.
And
I'm lucky to work for a company that has determined that we have enough money in the bank that for at least the interim term right now, we're not at a point where they need to worry about laying people off.
Yeah.
They did let go of all contractors, and they've done a hiring freeze, etc., but they haven't let go of any full-time employees yet. But I know a lot of companies aren't solvent enough to do that.
Yeah.
And I feel like the restaurant industry, if you were nimble enough to make the switch to really just focus on online pickup or takeout, delivery, etc., orders, and you trimmed back on your orders, there was a way through this, and clearly your company has positioned you in a way that it's still advantageous to keep you, and that's good.
Yeah. My boss was like, he was super, he took care of all of us. He definitely made sure that the full-timers, they were like the kids that work here, the part-timers, he let go. You know, they're like, but he's like, if you have, you know, if you're full-time and you have a family and stuff like that, he definitely took care of all of us and made sure that, you know, things were going on. You're still able to have like a job and do the best you can. I know people definitely, in terms of like this kind of business where it's like you're making tips, you're definitely in if you're not making as much. But the takeout and the pickup delivery thing has been, you know, it's definitely been keeping the lights on. And the beginning of this thing, it was crazy busy with that. Even though, but like now it's winding down. But like I said, people are still scared to go out, and people are still scared to come in. At Westchester County, you have 50 capacity inside. Mm-hmm. So people are still scared, and rightfully so. You know, it's a scary thing, and like there's really no way to judge what's right, what's wrong. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's no way to judge like what you're doing is right or wrong. You know, so.
Yeah, over here in New Jersey, it's 0% capacity inside. So whatever you can do outside is okay, and takeout is okay. So there are like you can't go in and dine anywhere. You can walk in and pick up, but that's about it. So, you know, all the businesses around here that were able to quickly transition and shift their workforce in a way that was efficient for them to stay open, but with their skeleton crew, are the ones that are still doing okay. And there are a lot of restaurants that are just shuttering because they crumbled under the weight of 4 or 5 months of rent and not any money coming in.
Yeah, it's in my friend who's he owned a restaurant and worked in multiple, said that like most places have
2 months,
2 weeks, maybe.
Oh, even 2 weeks
in the city, New York City. Yeah.
Yeah, it's different price point.
Yeah, and it's like 2 weeks of cash flow to keep them afloat. But yeah, like Manhattan is like, and in Brooklyn, Leo that plays in Crippled Earn lives in Bushwick. And I mean, there are places like at nighttime though, there are places outside. They have like all the tables are in the street and people are doing the outdoor dining, even the bars and stuff. But then again, that's questionable, you know?
Well, I was going to say it gets crazy in the city because on one hand, you've got a lot of places where people are afraid to go out. But then, like, you watch the news, like they were showing streets in Astoria, and there's just tons of people out in the fucking street, not distancing, not wearing masks, nothing, like just chilling, partying, drinking out in the middle of the street. And, like, it's just crazy how it goes either way. Depending on where you are, because they're showing stuff like that in Manhattan also, and like, what the fuck are these people thinking?
They're not.
It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely like people have so many different like views on what's the right thing. People are like, well, you know, it's time to get back to life and stuff like that. And then it's like, and then statistically, it's like, oh, we have a spike. I was at TD Bank in Williamsbridge Road the other day, and a guy at Montefiore was online. We were waiting to get into his ATM, and he's just, look at these people. They don't even have masks on inside using the ATM. And he's like, he had a Montefiore jacket on. He's like, we had 9 cases come in this day. And this is like in me and Gary's neighborhood. Yeah. Like at Obi. So it's like, all right. When the peak hit, it was very scary. Like when people our age and younger were dying, I was like, oh man, I mean,
it was so bad. And it's crazy because, you know, in the end, New York did the right thing because now look at how all these other states are. But you still got these people that are just ridiculous about it and like ready to fight. Like our friend Maria was out and like, I think she was on Morris Park Avenue or something, and people were talking shit to her because she's wearing a mask. It's like, really?
Yeah.
Like, are you fucking kidding me? But, you know, and it's crazy because you don't want to politicize it, but you can't help because some of those people are the same people that are having like Blue Lives Matter rallies and all this other shit. And like, they're the ones that are just, you know, oh, you're a liberal piece of shit and whatever. And it's just like, how do we go, like, how did this thing become political?
That's the word on the street, though. It's like people are saying, the answer to life getting back to normal, and a lot of old timer guys are saying this. They're like, well, you know what? Once the election hits, this is going to be over. And I'm like,
no, it's not. That's not how science works, bud.
People are hooked on ventilators, like dying, like, and it's like, no, it's not going to happen. I'm like, I don't think this thing is going to go away anytime soon.
I mean, it's not if these people keep operating the same way. And it's so funny because look at what happened in New York, that like they arranged all these extra beds and they brought that like that hospital ship in and all this shit, and then ended up not having to use it. And now here we are, and all of a sudden Florida is practically out of hospital beds and Arizona is practically out of hospital beds. It's like, weren't you paying attention a couple of months ago? Like, this is the problem. And it's just so funny how it's all flipped around like that.
And my coworkers have like family in like Mexico and like Guadalajara area, and it's like 2 weeks ago it peaked over there, and we thought we were in the clear over here. So, and they're like in these small towns where there's like 2 ventilators to a hospital.
Oh, so,
yeah, it's a really scary situation over there. And they kind of thought, like he was saying, I think like a lot of people that lived in that area or in the big cities just thought, well, this is over. And because everybody in Europe was like, they quarantined for like X amount of time. And it's, from what I hear, from what like some people I know that live out there, they're like, yeah, things are kind of back to normal. But there was no, I don't know. I really don't know. It's definitely, I really don't know what was, I can't say honestly what, in my opinion, what would have been the right thing to do. Should we have quarantined for 3 weeks and the world was shut down just for, you could get food and that's it in the supermarket?
I mean, I think at this point, if you look at New York, and we've talked about it on this podcast before, I'm not the biggest fan of Andrew Cuomo by any means, but you can't deny that what he did should have, and if they were paying attention, it would have set the example for everybody else. And that's why New York's numbers are pretty low.
I agree 100% that I'm not a big Cuomo fan, but I feel like of all the locations, him and New Jersey handled it the absolute best with just shut it down and let's try and contain this shit as best as possible. And not enough people have taken the same stance.
If every state shut down at the same time that New York did, shit would have been, I won't say done, but the shit would have been much more under control.
We would have done what all the other countries did, which was this, go down. We would have flattened it back down to manageable numbers.
Right, yeah. And if you continued to keep up with the testing and stuff like that, that would keep it, because you'd catch the people that have it and you'd be able to isolate them and let that take its course.
Yep.
Since we don't have a vaccine or anything. But instead, everybody is on a free-for-all, and there's
Florida.
No leadership from the top. Yeah, in Florida, forget about it.
Yeah, the Florida thing was like, it was like, you know, because everyone was growing so anxious of life getting back to normal. And I think a lot of it had to do with like fear. There was points where I was like, man, this sucks. But like, and I was just like, you know, it's like, I don't know, man, like my whole routine, like completely got like, I just go to work, come home, and like any of the things I wanted to do weren't able to do. But I was like, okay with that to a degree. But then like, I'm like, Florida's like, they're back to normal. And then like, oh, I guess that didn't work out, because now
it definitely didn't work out.
Yeah, and now
exactly.
So I definitely whatchamacallit, I think for what I do and what I do right now, I think we're going to be in this thing till like fall or winter. It's like it's going to stay like this. We're going to we're going to have to wear masks and stuff like that, and you know.
I think we're going to be talking next year at this time, and we're still going to need to wear masks.
Yeah,
probably.
I don't think it's going to be permanent, but it's going to be a lot longer range than people even want to consider, because nobody is willing to do, as Gary said, let's just take 1 month. Everybody wear it every time you leave the house. Don't go anywhere without it. I would be fine with a whole nother 1 month shutdown. Shut every single state down. Just cut this shit off and let's knock this shit out as fast as possible. We could have done this months and months and months ago.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think it's necessary. And it's funny because if you look back and like these people all talk shit about Fauci and this and that. And no, he wasn't perfect. Nobody's perfect. And the same for Cuomo, because Cuomo, everybody likes to bring up the nursing home thing.
Hey, and science changes as you learn new information.
Of course.
That's the whole part of the game. So, Fauci said one thing. He was wrong. He went back and he changed it. As you get new information, new protocols emerge. Right. You can't be mad at him. Just because you heard one thing and you thought that was the truth forever is not his fucking fault.
But you know what? In the end, what did he say? He said, you know what? If we don't close things up and shake this thing,
it's going to be here for a long time.
It's going to be here for a long time. We're going to end up having to shut shit down later. And now, look at what's happening.
We're going to end up having to shut down. It's not it's not a question of if, it's a question of when.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Without a doubt. And they could talk shit about the dude all they want, but in the end, he was right.
Yep.
Yeah, there's so many variables I feel about like even though like people I think also like there are a lot of people that like lost their jobs or were furloughed or were getting unemployment that was way more money than they were making, and it was like, all right, so I got party money now.
Right.
Yeah. Well, bro, that's not party money. That's help save your ass money.
Yeah. Well, wait until the realization kicks in there, because as of now, that's supposed to end in today's 20. That's supposed to end in like a week and a half.
Yeah, the bonus, and it's like it's just then the thing goes is like what now that there's no more money coming in. Yeah. What do we do? And people I think like instead of like. I had some friends that lost their jobs or were able to collect, but like they stacked away some of the money, and I have some other friends that just like they're still broke, and you were making more money than when you were working.
Party.
And it's just like I definitely think the bonus was necessary because the unemployment is not enough money to live on it. The standard unemployment that they give for the bonus.
Well, listen, there's so much more than that because we've discussed before. They did that whole stimulus thing, and you wipe your ass with it. Because what the fuck is $1,200 gonna do for somebody living in? I said New York City, but then as Len and I discussed, it's like, he's close enough that like his rent isn't much better, his expenses aren't much better. So like wherever you are. Maybe in the sticks that might be good for you for a while, but like $1,200. Dude,
I lived near Poughkeepsie before I moved back to the Bronx, and like 1-bedroom apartments at $2,000 up there.
That's what I'm saying. Like that $1,200 doesn't even cover a month's rent for a lot of people.
$1,200 wouldn't cover my mortgage. Like it wouldn't even blow dust on my damn mortgage at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
I would still be behind the 8 ball. Side note, exactly. Kanye West is wilding out on the internet right now. Somebody posted about it, and he's just going fucking absolutely buck wild on Twitter, just so you guys can go check it out after we get off this fucking phone call. Because that dude is out of his damn mind.
He's finally gone full.
Honestly,
I hate to make fun of him because I don't want to make fun of somebody that clearly has like a mental break going on, but he's definitely out of his goddamn mind.
Yeah, he has crazy in his eyes. Like he's definitely a crazy person for sure.
Oh
yeah, man. I don't even know where to go with this dude at this point. Like, whatever. I don't get it. I'm gonna have to look at this when we're done. This is gonna be great.
Oh god, you don't even want to look.
All right, so let's wrap this thing up because we're on 3.5 hours now.
Yeah. I'll probably end up cutting this down to 3 though.
I would hope so. So Will, where can we find your stuff? online?
Well, you can find it on all the platforms. Crippled Earn, we have one record. We have like a record and a CD out on Morse code recordings. Our first stuff we did on, they put out the 7-inch, and they actually did a tape too. But you can find everything on Spotify, iTunes, and Bandcamp. CrippledEarn.bandcamp.com, Neckscars.bandcamp.com, and IG handles Crippled Earn or Neckscars at Neckscars. So, and yeah.
And I know you guys have at least one music video, right?
Crippled Earn?
Yeah.
No, we haven't done a music video
or a lyric video at least.
Yeah, there's a bunch of that stuff.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, we'd like to definitely try to do a music video. I gotta learn how to do that. I have the stuff on my computer, but it's hard.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I've dabbled in it a little bit, and I know Len has also. But
yeah, definitely. It's definitely whatchamacallit. It's a lot easier said than done. Everyone's like, "Oh, you can do it on your iPhone." I'm like, "No, you guys should probably get a camera."
Yeah, it's a little complicated. Yeah. Well, I'd ask if you had any shows coming up, but those don't exist right now.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to just go to a show.
I mean, it would be nice one of these days, someday. Yeah. Unless it's at this point, unless it's some sort of secret show, then it's not happening. Well, listen, Will, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Thanks.
And Len, pleasure meeting you and talking to you.
You too.
I enjoyed the section about Scott. I'm sorry about Save Ferris.
I'm gonna expect a double-spaced 2-paragraph written apology in my email by tomorrow. Otherwise, I'm gonna delete this
retraction.
Yeah, I need it fully pulled out. So,
yeah, maybe you might get a video on your wall of me covering a Americana Save Ferris song, and you're like, I got my steel player on there.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh,
it was great. Great hanging out with you. This was fun. Time flew by.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you so much. Have a great night, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks you too. So theupgradepodcast.net is where you can find all of our fun stuff. And we will be in touch with you guys again next week. Thanks for listening.